Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Aegis Esports EMEA quarterfinals. It's quarterfinals today. I'm Monty, and I'm joined once again by my pal Eddie. Eddie, this is it. We're here. It's it. It's the finals. It's the quarters. What's going on? Playoffs.
Yeah, we're zooming today. We're ready to get into it. I'm excited. This is quarters for EMEA. Last week it was actually play-in, so we know who's kind of, got off the chopping block from groups and now into the stage of the top 8 to see who will be, fighting for the finals later on in the next couple of weeks. So it'll be quite a battle. And talking about battles, there is something we should probably talk about. We've got a charity event with a week of Aegis. Monty, do you want to kind of lead this one here?
Yeah, I can definitely take us through this a little bit. So Aegis has teamed up with To Write Love on Her Arms, which is a charity centered around helping people with depression, anxiety, unaliving ideation. We're going to use Twitch-sensitive wording here. They are a very, very good charity. I've just taken the chance to look through their website here. They seem to be absolutely phenomenal at helping people find resources to get help with mental health. And we have heard some personal experiences from Lord Director Hirsch, who has had family that has been directly helped by this charity. So we know that they're effective. We know that they do a fantastic job of helping people get the help they need. So if you would like to donate to this charity, to this wonderful organization, you can do so. There is the QR code right there, and that will be available throughout the stream. You're more than welcome to click on that at any point. Just hold your phone up, give it a scan. We do have our donation goal at the bottom. That'll also be visible throughout the screen. So if you do make a donation, you'll get to see the bar go up. You'll get to see the number move. And who doesn't love to see that number go up? It is a fantastic cause, as we said. And we would love if you guys could support any way you can.
Yeah, I think so. I really like charities like that, especially just trying to help in general. I kind of use that idea of I transitioned with this idea of battles, and I think a lot of people, have battles and they kind of don't really want to say or speak out about it, right? Kind of keep it to themselves. And this is a charity that wants to help with that and really kind of utilizes communities to actually bring the people who are having battles with themselves and trying to work it out and be better in life. And they try and really connect the communities together to help out. And charities like this is great, and I'm glad that Aegis is doing something like this.
Yeah, definitely. As someone who personally struggles with their mental health at times, I know how difficult it can be to find help like what To Write Love on Her Arms offers. So their website alone has thoroughly impressed me, and the personal story from Hirsch has led me to believe that they are an absolutely phenomenal organization that deserves any support we can provide them. So once again, if you would like to donate, there will be the QR code available throughout the stream, and you're more than welcome to do so. But let's take us back into some Legends of Runeterra. That's what everybody's here for. Annie, you must be so very excited about today's games because it's the MAYO Bandits. It's your team. Have you been on the ins with their prep for this week? Do you know what they're kind of bringing, what they're ready for, who they're looking to go after? But actually, before I let you take that away, I should give all of our lovely viewers a breakdown of the format. This is not your standard Legends of Runeterra tournament format. We are in playoffs for Aegis, which means it's Iron Man format. Each team sends one player. Your lineup restrictions are still the same. All 3 players are playing this week. And then each team sends one player at the start. The winning team stays on. The winning team stays on. The losers send a different player. There's some fun strategies with this. You can send counter matchups. You can build your lineups in a way that makes it difficult for your opponent to go after any one person. But yeah, Annie, take us away. Tell us a little bit about how the MAYO Bandits prepped for going into this week. They do have a huge opponent to take down in Baja and Alan's team. I should probably know who the third player on that
is. It's Pavolici and Cephalopod is on the team. We didn't really say who the MAYO Bandits were versing, but it is Seraphine Fan Club. So today is Anemo's MAYO Bandits versus Seraphine Fan Club. And yeah, let me tell you, this is a match you want to see. Probably one of the most, skill-intensive, teams that will fight it out in one of the most intense formats. But talking about kind of how they tackle the format, I know the MAYO Bandits prepped quite a bit, not that much. I mean, they did some prep, and basically what they did is they looked at the opponent's team, went, okay, what am I going to do? What are they going to play? Oh, Baja and Alan like to play the similar decks. Let's target one of those. And then basically with this all-kill format, you're trying to target as much possible decks you can with what you think your opponents will bring. And I'm pretty sure the MAYO Bandits did that because I'm looking at Sonic's list right now, and he's playing something kind of crazy. He's playing Deep, he's playing Ez Kennen, and this hits quite a bit of matchups.
Yeah, you beat me to it. I was actually just pulling up the sheets to take a look at these deck lists myself, and that's the first thing that I saw. And not only is he playing Deep in Ezreal Kennen, but he's on Caitlyn Jace Teemo, which I'm assuming is a champion strength deck. I should actually open that up. This is wild. We've got some very interesting lineups coming out this week. It should make for a very, very exciting show. Yes, it is a champion strength deck. I love that.
Yeah, this format's really weird. Not the format of like A's, but the general Runeterra format right now with the card pool. Because after the hotfix, it feels like there's not really a good deck at the moment besides Aatrox, right? And then everything feels so low power level, or it just feels iffy. So this is why you're seeing stuff like Deep kind of get back into the meta, because not only does it target Aatrox, it just, honestly, it's so good into everything else at the moment that you can beat stuff like Seraphine. You can beat stuff like, good mid-range decks. You can beat stuff like Champ Strength. So we're going to see a lot of random decks in this Aegis format throughout the few weeks, but they might, kind of gain a lot of traction because they're targeting a lot of stuff in tournaments at the moment.
Sure. And for those of you who might not know or who might just be tuning into this stream for the first time, Aegis is a season-long tournament. The season ran for 5 weeks this time. I think we had a shorter season this time. I forget exactly how many weeks it was, but it was 5. Thank you, production, for confirming that for me. The way the format works, you in a regular season, you have you and your 2 teammates all have to submit a lineup. Your lineup has to follow the normal Riot Lock rules, but then Aegis Lock is applied. And Aegis Lock means that you cannot repeat the same champion more than twice across any of the lineups. You cannot repeat the same region combination more than twice across any of the lineups. And I believe there's also a rule of only a certain number of championless decks, the same way we would normally have. I think. But because of those restrictions, in a limited format like this one, where there is only one best deck, Aatrox, and then everything else is kind of whatever, you get your list eaten up very, very quickly, which is why we're seeing, as Annie said, Sonic resorting to things like Deep, Ezreal Kennen, Caitlyn Jace Teemo. There simply aren't enough good decks to form 3 good lineups right now. You need more. You need to go out there and reach out. And players have found some very interesting answers.
Yeah, for sure. So we kind of talked about Ez Kennen. They kind of popped up out of nowhere. I know people like Fear Jordan's tried it out, and yeah, it's like really good into Aatrox. I'm trying to think about what Kivor and basically Ultraman brought, but it's a lot more of like a standard lineup. However, like we were talking about Ez Kennen and something that isn't standard, there is a few extra cards in this list now that people are actually playing and why it's popped into the meta. So I'll probably take it here. Yeah, so we've basically got the Black Flame. The Black Flame is the best addition to this deck because you actually have multiple ways to kind of be more consistent with your Kennen, right? You have those Kinko Wayfinders or Kennen play, and then you Black Flame, and then there's a few other things that you can do. If they kind of shadow block your Kennen, it stays there on Ephemeral and you can recall it, allowing you to have another Kennen. And that's probably the highest or basically the most utilized thing you can do with the Black Flame. And besides that, you've got some interesting cards like Defiant Dance, which gains a lot of value due to this Black Flame. So there's a lot of interesting cards here trying to utilize, I'm going to say it again, the Black Flame, because even though this is an Ez Kennen deck, the power level is definitely increased by that card, and it's allowing you to do kind of more exploitable things like the old list of Ezreal Kennen back in the day.
I really love the addition of this landmark to this deck and this archetype. I think it's very, very cool. I love the idea of duplicating a Satan, a Shadow Assassin, even a Kiku Wayfinder could be really, really funny. That allegiance effect should be proccing on summon. Um, so I think that's hilarious. I love this addition. I can't wait to see it in effect. Hopefully, it's not banned round one. I'm very big on the Defiant Dance for exactly the reasons you stated. Being able to activate the Black Flame like that is super cute, super funny. Notify hitting a decent amount in the meta right now, I guess. And as you mentioned, there's a lot of recall blocking shenanigans you can do with the ephemeral units. So I like the extra copies of Retreat Return, which I don't think were as prevalent in previous lists. Very cool deck. I'm looking forward to seeing what Sonic can do with it.
You definitely need the retreat just based on the low amount of units. Another thing that's really nice is Unworthy Soul actually can bring back your Black Flame. So if you have maybe an Ezreal in the Black Flame, you play another Ezreal, you can actually Unworthy Soul that Black Flame to have 2 Ezreals on the board. And then
that's really funny.
Yeah, it's quite a funny thing. Like this deck's skill ceiling has kind of risen again with Black Flame because there's so many little minute plays you can do that can really impact the game. You can even keep the Black Flame in with a Ezreal, and because of how this deck kind of works with its power level and win con being on the attack turn, like literally when they are attacking on the stack, this means that kind of this Black Flame gets even more value with the Ezreal, and you don't need to kind of do stuff like that, but you can go for a very high impact play with like a double Ezreal into Kennen lines.
I like that it gives you a way to kind of protect your champions, even if only temporarily. You can put Ezreal in the box and not have to worry about him being removed. They get rid of the landmark, he's coming back. You can use it as a recall target for your homecoming as well. I think it adds a lot of versatility. The one thing I would be concerned about is having 5 landmarks seems like a recipe for a break.
It can be, but it's weird because it also adds consistency if you focus your mulligan around finding Kennen and Kinku. So yeah, it'll be definitely an interesting watch, and I hope we see that. But I know we probably have another deck list going to be shown, and I think that will be from Seraphine fan clubs.
Yeah, we'll take a look at the next deck list here, and it's Alan ZQ's Seraphine Rise Victor. So this is the deck that he made. He took to Masters, right? He was talking about this on Twitter. This is not actually a Rise deck. It is just a Seraphine deck. It is very much an assembly bot deck, actually, which is not something I expected to be saying in 2022. But yeah, that's right. We have assembly bots, and if you look at this deck list, you will see that there are so many copies of Tellstones. Basically, all of these spells either create a second spell or have a secondary effect. And that means that these assembly bots and your Seraphine are going to start to grow very quickly, and Seraphine's level up condition is going to be achieved very, very quickly. I am a big fan of this deck. I've actually been playing a little bit of it myself with the goal of improving my play and broadening my horizons. I think it's a lot of fun. It's can be a little bit tricky to make work, but it's not too difficult. You just make a big bot, right? Like you get Victor on the board, you grow him, you make an assembly bot on the board, you grow him, and then you win the game with overwhelming attack power. Or you just do Seraphine stuff. I mean, that's always an option too. Do you have anything to add about this list?
I do. So this kind of just jumped out of nowhere, and it's a really interesting take of Seraphine. Seraphine usually has a few ways of win cons that we've seen in the past. It was maybe a Pursuit of Perfection, maybe Ezreal, but this win con is literally Assembly Bot and Victor. And it's very Miracle-esque. The way you kind of want to play this in most matchups that kind of aren't the master is you play back Ali Bar into Assembly Bot, and literally on that turn you play Assembly Bot, it will be like an 11-11. So you kind of pop off, and then basically based on what you get from a Seraphine, or maybe what you play with gifts, even though this list doesn't run. Oh no, it does run.
There's a single copy.
Yeah, it's a single copy. You kind of need to run gifts just for that overwhelm. That's what you're trying to do. You're trying to OCK with this Assembly Bot, or maybe even stabilize it. But that's how you kind of play for it. You play bar, you pop off with the Assembly Bot, and then you find the line for gifts from beyond or payday, or maybe the generated Seraphine spell and OCK. So yeah, I really love this deck because I think Assembly Bot is one of the coolest cards in the game.
I'm just disappointed that there's no Bilgewater Tellstones for Rally.
It's awkward because I don't think you have much units. So if
No,
you
I know.
build all
I'm memeing. The
the
Bilgewater Toastons don't make sense in this list. It's just I'm just trying to be funny. But yeah, this is it's a really fun deck. So if you haven't tried this out, you definitely should go take it for a spin. I would recommend playing it. But I think that's gonna cover it for our deck recaps. Now, we do know that it's going to be Sonic versus Alan first, and I was going to say, what do you expect the bans to be here, Annie? Because I'm thinking about it, and I honestly have no idea.
Look, I have insider knowledge, especially because you see my face on that bottle, but so I don't know if I should spoil it. Pretty sure Sonic is actually just banning the Seraphine deck, even though we talked it up. It's like the thing with the Seraphine deck into this lineup is, yeah, sure, it might not be the greatest, but it can just outplay a lot more than the other decks. Deep is actually decent into Red Glen. I'm not too sure about the champ strength, and I know Kennen Ezreal basically based on the Hokos, and if you can kind of stabilize the early to mid game, is decent into Red Glen. So I don't mind banning the Rise here.
I see. After thinking about it, I would have gone towards a Red Gwen ban, but I guess if Sonic is more comfortable in that matchup, it makes sense to ban the Rise out. I don't know. But Alan's ban. Alan must, if what you say about Deep is true, maybe Alan's banning Deep then.
It's hard because a lot of people disrespect Deep. Yeah. I say that because I played in a couple of sets yesterday and saw more Peace playing it. And talking about the ban, we do see it on the Rise. But like I was saying about that Deep as well, people disrespect it, and it's really good in this meta. Like I cannot stress enough how well it can do because it just steals games.
I have never been a fan of Deep myself, so I would be happy to see it go. Last thing I want is to sit here casting a bigger man and then a bigger man and then a bigger man, which is what Deep is. Deep's the original bigger man deck, but it's actually the Kennen Ezreal ban, and that makes a lot of sense. The deck kind of has ways to go out under all of these decks from the side of Alan, and I'm sure he knows that Sonic is a huge fan of that archetype. So bans come through. We will see which one of these two players is able to take the W at the end of the set, put their team up. We're getting into game one very shortly. Chat. I want to see in the chat, who do you guys think is going to win? Put one's for Alan, two for Sonic. And just as a reminder, that QR code is available under Alan's name there. You can see it. And that is for our donation to Write Love on Her Arms, which is a wonderful, wonderful charity organization that Aegis has partnered up with.
Now, back to the game, we definitely have a fast start for Alan here. We've kind of got the Boisterous Host and the Rear Guard. Probably going to go for the Boisterous Host play on the basis of maybe getting Dredges out on turn 1 for Sonic here. Alan definitely agrees and says, hey, if they do have the Dredges, I don't mind gaining value later on for this Horde unit.
Alan deciding to go for the Host makes some sense. It, of course, can be used to block on defense if he needs it to next turn, which the Rear Guard can't. And if it does get blocked on the offense here, it means that all of his future attacks are going to have a little bit extra oomph to them.
Yeah. I have to say, Monty, I'm not going to lie, I was kind of scared talking about which one drop to play. This is the thing with Alan. I feel like he's just going to rewatch the VOD, and no matter what, if I said the one drop was the better play there and he plays this one drop, I'm actually just doomed. I don't want him to...
I definitely would have just gone like Rear Guard's being slammed. That shit can't block. It only gets value on attack. Let's go. But it makes sense to play out the other one. You can definitely make a reasonable argument for both. I, for one, am curious to see what Alan says on his VOD tomorrow. No-brainer play from Sonic here. Nothing to do but slam out that Scarab. Then can consider the attack here. Alan passing back is a little bit interesting to me. I'm a little surprised not to see that Rear Guard developed. But having 2 mana available means that he's going to be able to use both the Blade's Edge and the Flock off of the Katarina next turn.
Yeah, that's also an option. It's also keeping up this idea of Vile, trying to make, Sonic Holic maybe not attack. And that's definitely what we saw from Sonic Holic, just taking it slow here. And like you're saying, Owens does bring up the Katarina, giving the option for Blade's Edge with the flock in hand.
Looks like the Blade's Edge is coming out, but it's not onto the unit I thought it would be on.
I don't hate this for a few reasons, basically. Like, you're trying to put pressure in here. It's going to be kind of decent into your mid to late game with this hand. But the thing with Owen's hand, even though it's kind of good mid to late game, you don't have anything for this mid to late game to kind of go with these Reckoners. So these internal dances needs to be drawn. Maybe a Glen needs to be drawn to start actually putting on the pressure. Otherwise, that Scarab could have gained value there.
Definitely could have. Alan, pretty reliant on this Katarina to make things happen at this point. Doesn't have a whole lot else going for him. Just a bunch of free attacks, which are fine and dandy, but not going to win you the game on their own.
Sonic just traded that Scarab? So the Scarab died due to the free one, or did it block the 4-3?
It blocked the 2-1, but there was a Mark of the Isles that got played to force the trade, which I really like from the side of Alan. There's not a whole lot in Sonic's list that is going to threaten a flip Katarina at this point.
Interesting. It's a bit weird because on the basis of like being kind of conservative on turn 2 with that Scarab play, but it shows that he was over-respecting Vile and disrespected the Mark of the Isles, which is a pretty good inclusion, and I think people aren't really casing on how, important that card could be.
When I was scrimming with people for Worlds Prep, and that Mark of the Isles tech was new and fresh, I was so impressed by it. It seemed that even though it was a one-up, it showed up every single game in my scrims, and every single game it stopped me from killing the Katarina, which let them win the game. So I think that card is one of the highest impact cards you could possibly include in your Red Gwen list at this point in time. And I would highly recommend to anybody at home who is looking at it and going, that's weird, to try it out themselves and see just how good it can be. Second Scarab developed here now, and looks like Alan is setting up for more Katarina attacks, wants to make good use of her now that he's got her leveled up and powered up. And I like that play a lot. I like this line of thought a lot.
Yep, I didn't mind seeing the Glen out either, but Katarina is just good, such a good pressure resource that you kind of have to deal with it. The thing is, like, Glen would have been nice as well, but I'm wondering if there was any reason we kind of wanted to pass initiative here as well.
So, my theory is that Sonic doesn't have a lot of spells to actually be able to kill this rear guard, and he doesn't really want to be blocking with this Scarab. So there's a high percentage chance that we get more than one buff up off of onto the thing, but instead we're just going to see this play happen, and this is a reasonable play as well.
Okay. I definitely don't want to say anything here. I don't want to say this is a bad play because Owen's going to just roast me. He's going to be ready for the VOD.
No, why would this be a bad play? This is a fine play. There's no reason not to do this. You're setting up a bigger board for your future attacks. These are just rotting dead in your hand. You have a permanent rally with Katarina now. Nothing's going to take her out except this vengeance.
You have Gwen here. I guess maybe they're scared of Devourer, but you're not flipped.
Yeah, but Gwen isn't forcing blocks in that point, right?
No, but it'll flip on the basis of just doing the 4-3 this turn, and I like if they vengeance here, they're still behind. And then you also have Katarina.
We'll see what Alan decides to do here. Gwen comes down now. Will Sonic respond with this vengeance, or will he hold it for the Katarina that he knows is coming on the following turn? Now, you're a deep player, Annie. What would you do in Sonic's position here? Because I don't play this deck. I have no idea where to even begin.
I am not a deep player. I'm just a deep, simple, more peace game player. But I think you're kind of in a problematic spot. Sonic definitely went for the draw here. Finds the Jettison. Jettison might actually flip deep here. I'm not actually sure, but if it does, it gives you a bit of leeway with this Nautilus. And if we can actually flip this Nautilus here, our game plan changes, and it's a way where we're actually trying to win in the next turn or stabilize.
We are 4 away from deep, so that means that the Jettison is going to flip it. We'll see if Sonic goes for the line.
That's huge. So, okay, so we can Jettison here. We play Nautilus. I'm wondering if we still actually get blown out to a point where we die. We block here into the Glen, then they can flock. They have a 5-1 on board. Then they will Sentry into Katarina. Katarina's 5 damage here with the Blaze Edge, plus another 3, so that's 8. 8 plus 5 is 12, and then how many hold procs we have? 2, so that's 14. We might actually just have lethal here if Sonic does go for the Nautilus here. And he does. So Alan's here. We'll be playing Katarina into Sentry with Flock. And this, I'm pretty sure, gives you an out for lethal.
I'm pretty sure this is lethal. I think you're right, Annie. Not enough blockers. Too many attackers. Sonic Alan's regretting the line that he took.
Wait. We've got the Scarab, though. Okay, no, we've got the Scarab. Okay. So there is some out. We do have Scarab. No. Okay,
there's no outs.
Scarab into Sentry, still decent. No, this is fine.
No, we're dead.
No, don't be too hasty. This is still fine.
We're exact. It's exact. As long as Alan orders this right. If the Sentry goes first, it's always lethal. Yeah, and Alan's not going to make the mistake.
Yeah, right. Okay, so Alan still finds the lethal here. I don't want to, overcommit my haste of being, this is lethal, Alan's winning the game, but Alan does have it here with the Blaze Edge and takes the win for Seraphine for the first game.
I think it's hard, but I've been on the desk long enough that I think I can get to 3, okay. 1 plus 1 plus 1, that's 3. And we have 1 on the opposite side, so that's 2. I don't know where I was going with this. There's more attackers than blockers. They all light up. The math worked out. I saw it. I knew it was over. Alan, I'm sure, saw it as well, and that's why he took the line that he did. Sonic now fighting from behind to keep the MAYO Bandits in this set 1. Not down and out yet. Still has a good chance against the Aatrox deck up now. We'll see if he decides to run it back with the deep, and looks like he's going to. Ooh. Pretty good hands from both players. I'm very curious to see how they mulligan.
I think we're keeping the Dredge Dredges, definitely. Undergrowth is also very important to slow down Harp and Valor plays, but we throw it out, and I think Sonic's just trying to turbo deep here and trying to get your deep boys to be cheaper, and yep, that's why we're definitely keeping the lore in the hand.
And it is only a 1 of Quinn, so it makes sense for Alan to keep it there as well. For those of you who don't know, any cards that you kick back in your mulligan cannot be redrawn during the mulligan. You can find it on turn 1 immediately following the mulligan, but if you throw that Quinn back, she's not returning to your hand. Alan offering up a trade says, I'm happy to make this happen before the Sea Scarab comes down. Also getting a little bit of information from that trade, perhaps, that there is no Sea Scarab.
Yep. And Alan's just trying to get Vayne down as a pressure tool, kind of. It'll be good later in the game and just basically disenchanting or basically discounting the tumble is going to be pretty good later on, especially when you have Defector and Quinn to gain pressure around those, around turn 5 or turn 6 to put Sonic back in the back foot later in those turns.
The Bane down early is going to help Alan a lot with his win condition. These tumbles providing pressure is going to force Sonic into blocking, which is exactly what Alan wants. The more Sonic has to block with these early units before he can get something like the Sea Scarab down or the Maokai down, the slower the deep is going to be. There's not going to be as many units tossed. And if there's not as many cards tossed, well, your monsters aren't going to get big and spooky.
Yep,
now just considering whether he wants to go for Maokai, the Sea Monster, or the Scarab. Just set up slowly.
This is really awkward because of the fish fight, right? Basically, we can just Aegis here into fish fight, and we can not really gain value. We can definitely Vile Feast, but it's like on the basis of what? Just getting too deep here, and Alan says no. Alan, okay, this is not a no. This is still in fish fight, and this is actually definitely just better here, right? You have the defector. The fish fight doesn't really do anything because it's 1 health. So yeah, I really do actually like this here, and we still get the fish fight out just to slow down the potential of Maokai kind of running the game and making it, toss more for Nautilus.
You had another option of going for like a tumble into fish fight line, which I think might have been okay as well, but this ends up being better for you in the long run. I think you're just set up in a better position from this point. If you take this line, you can opt to rally on the following turn or the turn afterwards now. You just have a lot more options with the way that this was played out.
Yeah, you definitely just want to pressure, and that's what Alan's doing here. You don't really want to lose you don't really want to lose tempo basically playing the Aegis. If you can just kind of keep playing units here and put pressure on it, it will run the game with Alan's. And wow, this harp kind of makes things awkward for Sonic now. Because if you don't actually block into this harped defector now, you actually are taking 12. And then plus we have a tumble in hand.
And Sonic is being set up to get punished so hard here. This sea monster, this obliterate fish, looks so appetizing. It's going to be able to remove the Darkened Harp and the Ranger Knight all at once. That's great. Fantastic. Love to see it. But Alan has a catch.
Yep. Not only does he have a catch, he also can use it on the vein here, which kind of stops this Vile Feast. So if you want to be more defensive, try and actually Vile into this and have more leeway with your Scarab. It doesn't really work that well because this catch will be important. Now, Monty, if that is the case, well, doesn't matter if that is the case. He is going for the Obliterate Fish onto the Defector here. Alan probably being really happy here, and here comes the catch. No counterplay can be resolved here, and this Obliterate Fish gonna be doing nothing but staring into the face of Defector, and here comes the 7-4 swinging into the spiderling.
And Sonic can't be happy about the way this turn turned out. I know I wouldn't be. I'd be real upset. Alan only on 2 copies of catch, so I don't think that Sonic was wrong to go for the play there. If it does go off, he's so far ahead at this point. He suddenly feels like he's in a much better position, maybe even a winning position. But with that punish, I don't know how Sonic's going to find his way back into this game.
It's not even really a punish, right? It's more like you didn't really have much options to basically do anything this turn, and this Defector just gaining so much value here. We can even tumble, but we're probably waiting for next turn. But we're going to be doing it now. Makes sense on the basis of just getting another tumble next turn. Puts another 7 damage into the dome. Otherwise, you have to trade down with this Obliterate Fish, and that means Sonic has actually no units on the board right now to kind of deal with another potential tumble.
And the Veins actually flipped here, which means that the tumble generated on the next turn is going to cost 0, and she's out of this Vile Feast range. Things have fallen apart so quickly for Sonic. He finds another Obliterate Fish, but it's a little too late.
Yeah, you just don't have much leeway here. The thing with Deep, even though you can kind of outplay Aatrox at time, kind of, go deep super fast, just be bigger. The thing is, sometimes you don't get those hands, and sometimes they can do stuff like this and find ways where you can put pressure, best as possible. But we do get the Defector off the board to try and find some stabilization.
Yeah, and the Darkened Harp goes with it, so Sonic feeling a little bit better about that, but still not in the best spot. This Quinn is going to be able to come down, and free rallies are fantastic. They're even better once they start buffing up your board.
It is, but this is a time where Deep still has the chance, right? We're talking about how it was looking really rough because they had barely any units, but basically, based on if they can kind of go deep in the next following turn and, trade well into this Quinn, there is actually a potential to be okay here.
And now I wonder how close we are to deep at this point, because it might actually be worth it for Alan to trade off his Vayne in this position if he can guarantee a win on the next swing.
Yeah, it's almost getting into stabilizing out here for Sonic. It was looking rough, but Deep also can do this where Deep as a keyword can kind of be utilized as a tool to just slow down things, because if you can get the scary threats out like that Defector, Demacia doesn't really have much to do. The only biggest worry now is Aatrox, but we don't actually have 8 mana here. And even though we tumble, this isn't a play cast, so you can't get Aatrox.
But this is looking good for Alan nonetheless. He actually just has lethal on this swing.
Yeah.
The block has to come out, and then he's got 2 challenging units. It's just over for the MAYO Bandits. Sonic Holic goes down 0-2.
Yeah. Poor thing. I'm trying to do everything I can in a biased manner to try and find a win here. I don't really want to tell him that, yeah, we just lose by a potential scout. Maybe we should do my job a bit better, but yeah, kind of sad. That was the line, and Clint into Tumble definitely won it for Alan.
Alan definitely showing that he's still one of the best players in the game, and that everybody competing in this year's World Championships were very lucky he was on the desk. Super strong opening coming out from the side of the Seraphine fan club. Alan, got to be happy with the way those games turned out. We are going to see more games very, very shortly. We're just waiting on the MAYO Bandits to send out their next player. It is either going to be Kevor or Ultraman, and we did just receive confirmation that Ultraman's going to be up. Ultraman brought Gwen Katarina, Ziggs Acolytes, Aatrox, Quinn, Vayne. Annie, how do you feel about the addition of Acolytes in this lineup right now? After the nerfs, I thought they were going to disappear altogether, but I've still been seeing a surprising amount of them.
Yeah, so I saw Ultraman's tweet, and I was pretty surprised that he was playing Acolytes, but if he feels like it's decent and still a good deck, I'm happy to see it. I'm really not too sure. Maybe it beats Aatrox, you just kind of get big, but besides that, I'm not really sure how this matchup will go, because it's just mirrors, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's pretty much mirrors. If they just ban, the Seraphine deck, then they ban the Acolyte deck. We're basically playing mirrors, and it comes down to who can play that best or draw well on the day.
Yeah, and just looking at this Acolyte list from Ultraman, it is a very, very standard list. Nothing out of the ordinary here. Exact same thing that we saw on immediately following the patch and prior to the hotfix. I myself made the addition of a couple Wastewalkers in this list to add some redundancy, but nobody else caught on to that one. I really don't know if this list has the legs after the nerf. I have seen it a couple times. It's definitely a lot slower than it used to be. But maybe you can still do some good stuff. There's a pretty high skill ceiling with your use of Explosive Minefield and Unleashed Energy and some of the other more nuanced plays that you can make with this deck. And Ultraman, of course, is a very skilled player, so curious to see if it makes it through ban phase, what he can do with it.
Yeah. Probably will do. When you have mirrored lineups, usually you just ban the best deck into your lineup, and then you kind of have that, X of a deck to verse each other. So yeah, unless Acolytes is kind of crazy into all their decks, I don't know. We probably will see it from Ultraman today.
Very likely. And as far as their red Gwen list look, I'm just going to take a peek and see if there are any noticeable differences between these two. Looks like there are quite a few differences. Crimson Pigeon in Ultraman's list, not in, or maybe in Alan's list. One of the lists has Crimson Pigeon, the other doesn't. A couple of extra copies of Glimpse Beyond, a couple copies of Noxian Fervor. Some slight differences between these two lists. One a little bit more aggressive, one a little bit more passive. We'll see how that plays out for them. But once again, we did just want to give a shout out to the wonderful charity we partnered up with to write love on her arms. They are a charity who helps people find support for mental health issues such as suicide, depression, anxiety. Sorry, Twitch, I slipped. Don't ban us, please. But they are an absolutely wonderful charity, and we have had some personal connection to them here at Aegis. Hirsch has had family members that have received help from them, and he's noted that they were absolutely wonderful and life-changing for his friends and family. So if you would like to support this wonderful charity, feel free to do so by scanning the QR code. We would love to see you guys help out any way you can. And of course, we thank you all for watching today's broadcast and participating in the Aegis League. But with that, we are going to get into the next deck breakdown here. And it looks like we're going to be taking a peek at Ultraman Zig's list. And yeah, like I said, very, very standard list here. Nothing out of the ordinary. You have your removal and drop the bomb, pokey stick, right of the arcane. A little bit of surprised burst damage through Unleashed Energy, a little bit of board control with Unraveled Earth, and of course, Rite of Negation to deny any major removal plays from your opponent and help you find that lethal. Basic strategy with this deck, get on the board with fearsome units and stay on the board with fearsome units. Once that you've lost the board with fearsome units or they can block them, use Ziggs to burn them out. I'm a big fan of the deck, or at least I was prior to the nerf, with the Reliquary going to 2 mana. Runeterra AR has not been updated. That is a 2 mana landmark now. I think it's just too slow. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I'm on the basis of it being too slow as well, because I was thinking about bringing it, but 2 mana is a lot. It doesn't mean you can play Ruinous Acolyte on 2 anymore, and you're not really getting a good board by like turn 5, and that's on the basis of high rolling, right? So if you can high roll, then yeah, it's still okay. You can kind of go big enough to the point where Aatrox doesn't really have room to kind of get over the Acolytes. But if you can't do that, and you can't really find ways to, just be tall enough than your opponents, you're going to really, really struggle, especially just because Reliquary is 2 mana now.
Got to agree. But from Seraphine Fan Club, let's see what list we're going to take a look at here. Oh, I lied. We're actually going straight into the matchup because we've already done a breakdown here. And we are going to have bans coming out. Ban theory here. So there's 2 options, right? These players could either elect to play 2 mirrors, which maybe they do, or maybe they ban the Aatrox deck because it's the highest power level deck, and then they show down Red Gwen mirrors, and Seraphine hopes it can beat Reliquary, and Reliquary hopes it can beat Seraphine. What are your thoughts here, Annie?
I don't know about Acolytes and what it's beating. Alan might, I don't think Alan prepped for this either, and he could go 2 ways and be like, yeah, I don't care about it, or I care about it too much, because it's just a random deck, right? So if he's confident about versing mirrors and into all of this, you could just ban it, but at the same time, Aatrox is just, such a good deck, and I think it probably beats into everything you want to ban the Aatrox. I think it might be from both players, right?
That would be my guess as well. I would expect both players to be banning the Aatrox here. But I could see Alan going, hey, I'm going to skill gap you and let's just get rid of this random nonsense. But then again, Alan doesn't respect random nonsense. So we do see the Aatrox ban coming up from the side of Alan ZQ. We'll see what Ultraman decides to go with.
It has to be the Aatrox ban, right?
I think so.
Wow, we actually get on the Red Glen. Okay.
Interesting. I would have thought that Red Gwen is one of the decks that Acolytes can beat. Very, very curious here.
I think it's too slow, right? Especially now. So maybe you're trying to just beat Aatrox, which is okay with Acolytes, and even though it's slightly losing into even though Red Glen's slightly losing into Aatrox, it's definitely winnable. But I think the name of the game is I'm gonna bully Rise Seraphine, right?
I could see that. I could see that for sure.
because like the Seraphine deck doesn't really have good fearsome blockers, and you really need Assembly Bot or Victor, and then you
Yeah,
can still just kind of flood the board.
Seraphine deck going to be super weak to these acolytes for sure. No doubt about that in my mind. I just would have expected that it would have had an easier time getting through Red Gwen than Aatrox. But Ultraman obviously knows something I don't, and we'll see what he does with it.
And we'll probably get into the game soon, but I'm just okay. So the Seraphine deck's probably the weakest link here out of everything. So it definitely has leeway to beat Acolytes, I think, even though you don't have as much fearsome blockers. If you do get an early Assembly Bot, and because of the basis of the deck being a bit slower, it can kind of win. And then you definitely have Flash Freezes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Based on the idea of using these Tailstones, it gives you enough capabilities to stall out the game. And Acolytes really needs to put as much pressure as they can, and on the basis of kind of, if an Entomb or a Flash Read is played, that might be enough to stop that pressure, right? Because then you can kind of value trade into again of those Acolytes on the next swing, and then they might just not be able to kind of deal with it or find the lethal, because there isn't really much over the top besides those things here.
We see the first matchup is going to be that Acolytes list up against the Seraphine deck, and Ultraman's got a hell of an opening hand. Alan ZQ doing pretty well himself.
Yeah, I'm liking Ultraman's hand. Reliquary, good card. It's literally what the deck's for.
Yeah, if you start the game with that in your hand and the Ziggs, you're set. Inventive Cannabis is just a bonus at that point.
It's a bit awkward though, because we do have Victor and Assembly Bot on our side, right? We were talking about, hey, well, it's more than okay, because like the thing is, these cards will run with the game, and it will just slow down Acolytes based on this Reliquary being a turn slower.
So Ultraman actually just going straight for those Acolytes. Honestly, I wouldn't have minded him playing this maybe a little bit slower, getting the Devout online this turn, and just trying to wait till these Acolytes actually, you have a couple more of them. Still, this is perfectly fine. Nothing wrong with this. I just think we're left without a good blocker this turn now, and things get a bit awkward. We could have had maybe a little bit of a higher tempo play next turn if things worked out differently, but I guess Alan's never attacking into this Devout anyways, so.
You need to kind of get Reliquary just like snowballing, right? And to do that, you have to just kill it off straight away, and this is definitely what we're going to see. Let's get a Reliquary here, and we do get the 4-3 to battle out with this Assembly Bot and Victor. So
Victor gets quick attack and is able to attack in for free there. No punish possible from the side of Ultraman.
And we still can actually get a landmark out here, and this is what Ultraman wants to do, just get more Acolytes on the board, gets rid of one of these here, and makes the Acolytes 5-4 fearsomes into the board of a Victor and Assembly Bot. That one of these can grow, but even though the Victor does grow, it doesn't grow with health. So if they do want to try and slow down the game here, it means that they will be trading off their Victor. Wow. And we just see a pass from Ultraman. Okay. I don't hate it, but it's also a bit iffy. Like we were saying, these Reliquaries being very important to shuffle into the deck as well, especially with those Rite of Passages being top decked, and this is looking really good for Ultraman. What do you think, Monty?
I think Alan is perfectly fine here. It looks really good for Ultraman, but it's not nearly as good as it looks. Alan has access to a stun. He has access to this bar. He has Rise for fearsome blockers.
I mean, yeah, that's true. The thing is, we're going to be getting an Acolyte and a 5-3 out, and we've also got the Ziggs. It's looking
Don't get me
pretty
wrong,
good.
Ultraman's in a good spot, but I don't think this is even close to over.
And Alan's just utilizing Bar so well these Tailstones and gets rid of this things, which is important, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think over the top is definitely going to be kind of impactful. And wow, just more reliquaries. Does this mean? Okay, so we play reliquary, play into the acolyte. We can play all of these, right?
No, I don't think we can. We can play one. We can play 2 acolytes and 1 reliquary, I think.
Yeah, right. So we're at least getting our board full.
Board is filling, yes.
And they're going to be 7 6s and a 5-3 here.
Yep, that's right.
Okay, so
Alan has to play out the Rise here, I think, just as a fearsome blocker, and he's got a stun option. Is going to lose the Victor here, though, I think.
I mean, you've got more options here as well. You can actually gifts into the healing here just to kind of like make it awkward for Ultraman, but that does almost lose to a stun. It doesn't actually based on the assembly bot, but something with assembly bot is Sunworks map. Okay, this game is kind of looking I don't want to say doomed for Ultraman, but I don't know if we had a quicksand in the list, and if we do, we really want it because
there is no quicksand in the list, and I'm pretty sure with finding that, with finding the cards that he has, Alan has found himself a way to win this game. The extra gifts from Beyond is going to let him stun, which will let him survive. Cost 0 now because he has the mana for it because of the bar and the Victor level up. This is
he got the I mean he got that one from Song Spinner.
Yes,
but that's still fine. Do we have lethal here on the side of Ultraman? 14. This is okay, actually, no? I guess it'll be 0 mana. So hold on. This is still lethal on the side of Ultraman, but they will need to gifts here. And yep, Gravitum comes out. We are chump blocking both of these. So Victor, well, we're doing the better line here, and we're just life stealing, like I said earlier, and it means Ultraman can't really attack with anything. Definitely going to take it out anyway, but it's not going to resort into much just based on healing for 14.
Yeah. How does this work out now? So you let the first 2 attack, you block the 5/3, you let the second 2 hit. You're at 1 HP, you're dying to this Pokestick? Unless you give up your Victor. Interesting spot. We'll see if Alan, how this ends up playing out, and if Ultraman makes the full attack, how Alan decides to block.
Definitely, like, utilizing this lifesteal like we were talking about earlier really makes everything awkward. Because, we can definitely take 14 here and just heal up, right? So 2 of these acolytes don't actually do anything. And Ultraman at least doing this in the correct order, but like we're saying, this isn't, like, these 2 acolytes attacking are irrelevant on the basis of, assembly bot just sticking around here with the lifesteal. We don't have any way to actually buff up any of our acolytes right now, and Alan's just showing his hand, but it doesn't matter because there is no interaction on the side of Ultraman. You can't actually do anything here, so playing Sunworks is definitely correct. Just getting a bit of healing, and
Doubled Seraphine comes down just to add insult to injury. This is over for Ultraman. Acolytes showing that, yes, they can get big units out on the board quite fast, even despite the nerf. I was surprised by how big these got to the size they did, but the nerf slowed them down just enough that Alan was able to get there. And,
this is what we are kind of scared of, right? We literally said the potential chance is Victor and Assembly Bot just getting bigger. The Sunworks map not even really mattering because you can keep the Victor on the board, and Alan takes it here for Seraphine, being a clean sweep almost. yes, Ultraman definitely still has a chance, but looking after that game and just seeing Acolyte's not doing the work that it wanted, even with a high roll, is kind of
Yeah.
scary.
Acolytes not getting through the deck that we both thought it was going to be able to get through is definitely scary. If it wasn't able to push its way through that Seraphine list, I am very worried about it getting through Aatrox. I'm sure Ultraman's on the edge of his seat right now as well.
Last thing you want to do is lose to someone who barely plays the game anymore. But I mean, Alvin's putting in the reps again, and we're definitely seeing it. Who cares about Lost Ark, right? Old game. We're all about Runeterra now, and yeah, I mean, like Alvin is definitely doing their best and showing why they were the world champion. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like I've joked a bit, I've like, oh, Alan doesn't play the game. How can he be that great, right? You need to put the practice in, but no, when you're a gifted individual, it doesn't matter. And like, yeah, you can just play the best decks and do well. But Ultraman is a good player and knows what to bring in. This is a bit of a hand. Not sure if you want all this, but it's kind of funny. And he just full keeps it on the side of
Wow.
Ultraman here. Wow.
That's interesting.
I like it. It's funny. We've filled our board up on turn 2. Is this a world first? Maybe not, but it's pretty funny.
It is pretty funny. I just hesitate. It's going to let your Ziggs level up real fast, but
I mean, 4 damage is pretty good, and then you have another 7, like 3 damage coming in, and then you have board space. You still have board space here, and then you have more board space next turn. So this works out really, really well.
I think Ultraman got a little bit bailed out by the fact that he found a reliquary here.
Yeah,
because with the way he played this out, there was a lot of room for things to go wrong very quickly. He could have just continued drawing into bricks like this Drop the Bomb or more Unraveled Earths or something like that, and he could honestly never find his Ziggs at this point. So that's why I was a little bit against that the Mulligan decision.
Yeah, definitely, but we do find the Acolyte here really nice. I mean, we had it with the Reliquary, and we've just got room. Like you were saying with that Mulligan, you're really scared because this is kind of a high roll deck, and you have to, fully base your Mulligan around Reliquary. But we get it here, and we just, instead of destroying it, we just destroy our bomb, which makes a lot of sense because we want to utilize these landmarks before we have to utilize any other ones.
Now, has the option for Drop the Bomb onto the Broadwing, and I like this play a lot. Big fan.
Just making it really awkward here. Needs to play the Defector into a right hand, into a potential right. Doesn't actually have the right from Ultraman, and definitely not really what you want to see. But Owen must be happy that there is a swing on the side of Ultraman, because I would be absolutely, not happy if I saw right in this situation.
Yeah, I'd be pretty upset about that as well. But Ultraman has no right available, only this Reliquary. And we are going to see these Acolytes begin to come out and continue to grow. Oh, there's the right.
It's still okay. Definitely, would have been nice to push even more 2 damage, but Owens doesn't really have much going for him. You can definitely roll here, but you still lose the potential threat, pressure threat from Defector, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We just Darken Spear. Makes a lot of sense because this is another similar asset of Gerald, almost. Like, you don't have challenge, but scouts are almost as important. And this plays around a lot more things because it is at full health, right? It can kind of do justice, and it can also just take away this Acolyte, and here it goes with the fish fight.
But now Ultraman has the option for this Rite of the Arcane, and it looks like he's going to go for it.
Which is honestly still the right play from Owens, right? He had a read that there was no right, so there would only be a potential top deck. And you probably don't want to be attacking here. I don't think they really stop with the Acolyte themselves, but, it just dies anyway, so you don't want to trade that off. And, yeah, I think the fish fights is probably the best shot you're going to get from there.
For sure. Alan Lucky, though, finds a couple more, still has a couple units available here, so he's not completely burnt out yet, not entirely on the ropes, down for the count. Actually just decides to play the Joral here to develop a blocker and let him actually pick up that Aatrox.
Right? And we're trying to pressure, trying to make these acolytes big as possible and trying to overtrade the Joral, right? But sadly, this Darkened Spear gives you a bit of leeway, and it's not looking great. I'll be honest. It's another like reminder of what happened last game, right? You're kind of running with the game, and then you just can't get there because their units have kind of caught up. Where if you had a 1 mana reliquary, probably not the case, but due to it being 2 mana, you kind of can be okay. And we just get the Aatrox here and start healing up, which gets us into the stabilizing point of this game.
But more reliquaries are going to continue to come out. Or sorry, more acolytes are going to continue to come out from the side of Ultraman. And now we're changing pace here from Alan's side. He's just going to go ahead and swap out this weapon, let the Joral take out one of these acolytes, and keeping the Aatrox back for now.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, you don't want to lose it. I definitely don't want to lose it to an acolyte, especially if you're getting a Darken Fallout, which gets pokey. But yeah, there's a lot of leeway to kind of world ender here and win, right? And that's definitely what you're going to be aiming for. You just need to find a stabilizing point. And if you do have Aatrox, it is a potential.
Yeah, you can always stabilize with Aatrox on the board. Absolutely incredible how much this guy heals for. And there's a very hot tech coming up from the side of Alan there. That's a Silence and Suppress, which is a 1-mana card that silences a unit and destroys their weapon. No weapons from the side of Ultraman here, but these acolytes definitely don't want to be silenced.
No, I don't want my acolytes to just be like, oh, okay, right? Because this is literally our only pressure tool, and if it just goes, oh, you're gone, you're not happy, and you can't really do much, right? So this 7/6 gonna come out, and it's gonna get silenced. There is a bit of leeway here. It means that they can't Darken Spear. Is that what the Freljord weapon means? They can't really,
yes,
Darken Spear if they wanted to trade that into the Aatrox, but I'll tell you something. We just gave a potential way for Aatrox to actually be okay. No, I'm throwing the game. I'm actually throwing the game. I forgot. Aatrox is a 5/5 based on the plus.
He is.
So ignore me. Like 0 hours. Okay, very very typical early times, and I hope I don't get roasted by Alan. All I can think right now is, Curva, you're saying it. This is not right. What are you doing as a castle? And yeah, no. So this Aatrox still going to be lost. And these players definitely have an idea of how to play this game.
I love the way Alan is navigating this end game. He is making things so awkward and tricky for Ultraman here. If the Aatrox isn't, by equipping this 2/2 and giving it tough, he is forcing the Acolyte to trade off into the Aatrox, which he doesn't care about because he can just make another Aatrox on the following turn. And if it doesn't trade into the Aatrox, he's leaving himself a Thrall on the board, which just gives him more and more units for Darken. And that's exactly what he wants to do. It looks like we are going to see an Aatrox played out, but that's a top deck!
Here. This is a top deck here. The World Ender comes out, and the Rite of Negation being top deck will slow down the game, gets the World Ender out of here. I was wondering what's going on. He can't be poking, and we will see the Rite of Negation slowing down the game, not getting an Aatrox out where we thought there might be a Scout Aatrox for lethal, and Ultraman just doing what they want, thinking about maybe doing on the free. There is no play of interaction. They don't run singles, so you can definitely do this. And the Rite of Negation gets played. No more World Ender means Aatrox is still dormant.
Now, I was ready to phone it in, Eddie. I thought we were done. We're ready to go home. Alan's packing it up. We're going to set 3. He's going to bring it home early. But Ultraman finds the one top deck that can keep him in this game for a little bit longer. And Alan is not in a good spot at all now. He's not in the worst spot. Could be worse, but he's not happy about the way things turned out here. He's going to have to wait another turn to start developing some of these Darkin. His board is not all that threatening as it is right now. He's just unhappy with the way this happened.
It just gives you some time, right? And that's all Acolytes needs, because you're going to get an 8-6 or an 8-7, sorry. And not only that, but now you also have another fearsome here. Very smart on what Ultraman did. Basically trying to put as much pressure as possible. So quite nice. And this is definitely what you do here. And there's not really much you can do for Owens right now besides trade down, trade this 2-1, and you can't even attack because this Acolyte will slow down any potential attacks here. And wow, we get it right. Doesn't do much besides killing the 3-1, but at the same time, that doesn't mean anything because, you're not actually getting a potential way to swing with the Acolyte based on, them just playing another Aegis.
Yeah. These Acolytes, Alan at this point has enough blockers for these. He'll always have enough blockers for these going forward, so long as he continues to draw into units, and so long as he's only got to deal with one Acolyte per turn going forward, which is part of the problem that this Acolytes deck can have, especially when you go for these early Reliquary plays where you start clogging your draws with only Reliquaries. And that's part of the reason why I would have liked to see Ultraman maybe take a bit of a different mulligan. I found myself that when you're playing this deck, you often don't want to be going straight into these Reliquaries because you get to the point where you're limiting yourself to just one unit a turn. And that can be awkward because like we see here, most decks can get to the point where they can stabilize and effectively combat a single unit per turn.
Right. So, wouldn't that mean Ultraman did the right line, though, and just went for the Inventists instead of, trying to go for the Reliquary? And
I would have liked to look for something like Preservarium. Having a Ziggs at this point would be really nice. I just think keeping the 1/1 drop really, really limits you to what you can do because you're not getting any additional card generation or card draw coming in from there. We did have that one Pokey Stick in our opener as well, but one Pokey Stick isn't a whole lot.
Right. So we do actually need to kill off that Valor here with the right, which is fine, but we do get the Knacker out, and this is a thing with weapons. If you don't really have a late game here, they can actually just, transform into something kind of scary, and the 6-8 plus with the Shiratu gives you an ability to actually stabilize again. So we're saying, hey, look, Ultraman, he has the time. He has an opportunity to get back into this game because of the right. But at the same time as saying that, this Shiratu and Anaka can definitely swing it for Alan.
Yeah, the Seratu and the Anaka together is going to be a huge threat. Ultraman, of course, is going to have to start blocking rather quickly.
So what we do here, we block the Anaka, right? Only a 4/4, which is all right. We trade down our 5/3 into that 4/4 as well, and then stop with the 3/3. That means we've got most of the fearsomes out. They can make one more fearsome. But even though we're trading our whole board here, we don't actually have any way to get through based on World Ender, the Aatrox weapon being a potential to play and make another fearsome looking.
Yeah, this is tough.
Why are we doing these blocks? Okay, so Ultraman does switch it around. Wondering if we want to keep it, we probably want to just trade the Naka here, but playing around catch.
Yeah.
Trying to do anything. It's a bit awkward at the same time, though, because if they have catch, it means they can, deal with the fearsome. And talking about Darkened Spear gaining value and, we've got another fearsome blocker. We've got two fearsome blockers. What are our top decks on the basis here? Reliquary doesn't do anything anymore. they can kind of just trade down. Is trading down good for us, though? It gives us some time, even though there's another Shiratu in the Necker being able to be played.
Yeah, buying yourself a turn here is not the worst thing in the world, but again, we're kind of out of gas, and a single Acolyte is not going to be a major issue for Alan to deal with at this point. If the attack comes through, the whole board is going to get traded down.
Right, so we do the Acolyte play. We have 2 10-9s, so that means they aren't actually going to die, which is good. But the thing is, you can just stop majority of this, right? You stop all of these, and then you trade your 6-8. You trade with the 5-3 into the 6-8. Therefore, Ultraman keeps it on the back here. Be smart about it. Tries to get as much value as we can with these Acolytes, and this is kind of looking scary, right?
So Alan now just trying to decide how he wants to play out this next turn. If he wants to force blocks on his side by keeping these Darken alive, if he wants to set up, and he ends up deciding.
You what he does. He Sirachus, and then he just plays another Aneka.
Yeah.
I mean, you can Bloodletters as well, or maybe Zorani here, but yeah, you just go for that and just like keep trying to stabilize as much as possible. It's such a weird stalemate of a board here, but it's finally coming into the way of Alan's, and yeah, we just even get a Darken here weapon, and wow, Jury Floor is pretty good. This
is going to do it, I think.
This is lethal here. We top deck the Veins here with the Clin. Doesn't matter how much you want to slice it. Clin with Vein is another scout attack, or you could just tumble in general, and this will be game from Alan. Just playing out of his mind today. Not even looking like it's a problem for him, and just 2-0ing the whole of MAYO Bandits, allowing the only person of Kiva to maybe reverse sweep this team.
Yeah, just going to go ahead and play out that Quinn, sacrifice it. So it took maybe a little bit longer than we expected, but still a rather quick 2-0 for Alan there. He really wants to take some names today. He came out swinging. He was ready for everything that the MAYO Bandits had to throw at him. Now, we'll see if Kevor can hold it down and buckle down and make that reverse sweep happen. You know he's not going to go down easily. Kevor, obviously one of America's best players. Such a strong player. But yeah, I think we are going to cut to a little bit of a break right before this potentially final round. We'll be back very shortly. I do just need to go get some more water. Very important. But before we do go back to a break, I'm going to give one last shout out. Well, not last shout out, but one more quick shout out to our partnership with our charity. The charity is once again, To Write Love on Her Arms. Oh my, I'm losing my mind. And they are in support of mental health, unaliving people who want to unalive themselves. They help people find resources to deal with that, as well as depression, anxiety. And if you would like to donate, the QR code will be on your screen for all of this broadcast, and you're more than welcome to give that a quick scan with your phone. But we'll be right back. Catch you guys after this break. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to your Aegis EMEA quarterfinals. I'm Mati, joined by my pal Annie, and we're back with Seraphine Fan Club versus Anniemore's Mayo Bandits. Annie, it's been a tragic start for your team. Do you want to talk to us about, tell the viewers about what happened in the first two sets?
Yeah, sure. So first off, we started with Sonic, a potential favorable matchup for them. They did not perform. So Sonic goes 0-2 into previous world champion Owen. Well, there's a bit of something going on. Ultraman steps up to the plate, says, hey, Acolytes, pretty good deck still. I'm just going to 2-0. Can't beat Aatrox. Newsflash, doesn't really, and sadly, Acolyte's just slightly too slow, and Owen found the way to stabilize, knew what to do, and, well, 0-2'd the Mayo Bandits once again, and Ultraman is out. However, now, don't I have a story for you? The one person who has to 3-0 this whole team now is a person who has history with not only Alan, but the European server. This, not underdog, but this wolf of a person. Kevor, a person who's taken down Europe before in America's versus Europe money match and knows how to freak them out as much because they play control as well, and Europe is a control server. So they know the ins and outs of who they are playing. And, well, if anyone is going to 3-0, it will be Kevor, the America's import, taking it out. And I think this is going to be definitely a very, very close match, especially in Talon.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see which one of these two phenomenal players comes out ahead. But before we get into the deck breakdown, I do once again want to give a shout out to our lovely partners. We've teamed up. We here at Aegis have teamed up with the wonderful charity To Write Love on Her Arms. They are a charity in support of mental health concerns, including but not limited to depression, anxiety, unaliving yourself. We are once again using Twitch-friendly terminology, as long as we can remember to, anyways. And they're a wonderful charity. They are Lord Director Hirsch, who I'm sure many of you know and are good friends with, has had family members receive help from this organization. So we do have firsthand experience that they are a wonderful charity, and your money is going somewhere valuable to help people. And if you would like to donate to them, once again, there will be a QR code on your screen down there. That way. It's in the frame. It's in the frame. You could give that a scan with your phone and donate. Your donation will appear on the bar below me. And we all love to see that bar go up. Of course, no pressure if you can't donate or if you can't afford it. That's okay. We appreciate you guys being here and just being aware of the cause. But with that, we are going to get into the deck breakdown, and we're going to take a look at Kevor's Red Gwen.
Yeah, so I'll probably take it off because, I was actually talking to them about this before, and there's a few interesting additions. Pretty stock, I would say. You know, the one of Fervor and the one of Isles is probably, well, it is literally the only one ofs, but they become really great inclusions. Like we were saying at the start of this broadcast, Mark of the Isles finds a lot of leeway to the point where you can kind of trade into a unit and, find a way for more potential tempo swings to be ahead. Or you can do simple things like just take it out of potential removal range, which is really good into Seraphine decks, right? And you're already kind of beating those. One interesting thing is the Crimson Pigeon. So I know a lot of people kind of have been getting off it a bit because there is some weird awkward stuff here where you don't want to play into it and play with it, and then it just becomes like a free. But if you're trying to be aggressive as possible and run 9 1-drops like this deck is doing, it's not horrible for the last set of 1-drops.
I like it a lot myself. I like these more aggressively slanted versions of Red Gwen. I think that with Bandle getting deny and stuff like that, the Harrowing becomes a little less reliable, so you want more early game pressure tools, and I think the Crimson Pigeon and the Rearguard do a phenomenal job of that. Nothing too out of the ordinary with this list beyond that. Big fan of the one Noxian Fervor as well, for the aforementioned reasons, but pretty standard deck. Now, we are going to get into the deck selection screen here in just a second, and we'll maybe have a chance to break down these players' bans and the strategy. Pretty similar lineups here. We have the double, both players on Red Gwen, both players on Vayne Aatrox, and both players on a Seraphine deck. We have the Bandle flavor for the side of Kevor, and the Rise assembly bot list that we've seen piloted to such wonderful success from the side of Alan. Annie, what are your thoughts here?
Right. I think there's a couple of angles you can definitely do here. I think for Kevor, it's a similar scenario to last set. And I think you either ban the Rise deck here or you ban the Aatrox. I would rather ban the Aatrox, but I definitely see the merit to ban Seraphine. Even though, I think something like Red Glen is good into it, I would expect the ban from it, and that is definitely what we see from Owen once again, because it is pretty decent, and Kevlar here goes with this Rise ban.
Yeah, really interesting stuff coming up from these players. I'm so surprised to see these Aatrox lists be continually left up. I obviously haven't been playing a whole lot these days. I've taken a bit of a break from the game, but Aatrox just seems to me like he is so strong. It's almost like an auto win for the player leaving it up. So it's a bit surprising to me that they haven't made a gentleman's agreement to handshake ban this. And just a reminder, sorry, Annie, before I let you take it away, I did want to just remind all of our viewers about this format. It is not your standard format. As you can see on the right-hand side of the page of your screen, under Game 1, we have a remaining players icon for both teams. You can see the MAYO bandits are down to their last man. Well, this is an Iron Man format. Kevor now has to run through all 3 players of Seraphine Fan Club if he wants to take the W for his team.
Yeah, a W is definitely what he needs, especially from the aggressive side of Alan's, right? We have this really good addition that's the 2-2 here that just makes another Holloed engine. And even though we get it off the board, it is a bit of a damage maker, and now we're down 4 health already. If we're playing a simple game of who has the most health, Alan wins already. But thankfully for Kevor, that is not the case, and we definitely have a pretty good hand on the side of the MAYO bandits here.
Kevor got a lot of options here. Being able to set up this Vayne and get the tumble counting down right away is definitely something I would be looking at, but we'll see if he opts for a different line. Plenty available. One thing he may want to do is set himself up to be able to remove a Gwen on the following turn. So we'll see if he decides to go for that. Instead, does actually just go for that Vayne.
I think it's, always important to get the Vayne out early, especially when they've tapped out of like a potential way to kill it, even though that would only be violent to Flock. I think it gives you so much leeway here, and you just want to trying to find a way where you can kind of run with the game, but we just pass here. Interesting. I wonder why. Do we want the challenger here?
I don't like the attack. I don't think it does a whole lot for us. It just turns one of these 3/2s into a 3/4, and it lets the Gwen get bigger as well.
Yeah, really well. I guess so, right? Because now this gives you a potential chance to play Aegis here and not actually get, punished for it. Kevlar really understanding the way of how Hollowed works and how Glen can really be impactful in this matchup, right? A lot of people don't realize that and don't really understand that the way you can kind of hard lose with Demacia into Glen is the basis of Hollowed, and doing a really, really smart job making that not become a potential possibility for Allens here, and showing why Kevlar is probably understood as one of the highest, understanding of like players here based on gameplay and matchups.
Definitely one of America's greats. And I really like that he put the Aegis on the Vayne. Could put it on the Broadwing to potentially block one of these 3/2s, but not really necessary. We are going to see the Vayne block this Gwen, and we'll see the Broadwing take out the free trade onto the 2/1.
9 damage, though, is a lot. Still going down to 7. And we do have another Glen here playing into this harrowing hand. This is looking kind of scary. Definitely. Like, we can't play it till turn 8 unless we find a Katarina. Then we can play it on turn 7 because, like, if Katarina dies, then with the basis of it being rallied to 4, you have some leeway. But besides that, we're probably only going to get it on turn 8 here if it's attacking, and it still gives you a chance for Kiva to, stabilize, do decently, and I think a way we might need to try and win is find, potential aggression outs here with multiple tumbles.
Yeah, Kevor had the option to look for a tumble this turn if he wanted to, instead decided to set up a wider board. I like that. Now, just contemplating, taking his time to think through his actions on the following turn, think how this is going to play out, think what he needs to keep available. I'm a little bit surprised by that pass and not seeing the 1-drop developed. I assume that he counted out the mana and decided that he needed all 6. But actually, we're just going to see it play this turn instead. Wanted to give up an action, I guess.
Yeah, I think he really wants to utilize this potential action here to see if they're playing Gwen. The thing with Kevlar is, most people, they kind of learn this idea in strategy and, turn-based card games that thinking ahead is good, right? And majority of people think a turn ahead, maybe 2 turns ahead, but Kevlar is the type of player that thinks all the way to like turn 8. He wants to have a really good visualized understanding of what the game will look like in those following turns and how he can prepare for that, right? So he's thinking of all the potential outs. He's thinking of, hey, I want to maybe give up my action, see if they play something like a Glen here. If this changes what it might look like in 4 turns by now, I need to be prepared for this because I really need to slow down maybe a Glen, right?
Now, Alan actually opts to play out the Reckoner here. And Kev, we're going to go ahead and take the free trade he's been offered.
Yeah, I think Kevin is definitely happy that he hasn't seen the Glen. There is no real utilizing with like the Harrowing in 2 turns, even with the Reckoner. Like, you need another Overwhelm Reckoner to try and get over the top here. Maybe that's the line you're going for, right? But it's like pseudo pressure, I guess, with the Boisterous Host. So it's not horrible. I do like the idea of just getting more hollowed and trying to put, the way of like making Kiva get on the back foot, right? Because these rear guards, even though they are pretty good at attacking, it gives the potential for Kiva to outrace Alan.
We're just going to continue to pass now. Wants to know how to respond to this Midnight Raid. And like you said, Annie, it looks like it will, in fact, be the 1-drop going in here with the Hallowed to continue to gain those stacks for the side of Al and make his threats even bigger, even more threatening.
Right, and then we get an Aegis out here. Okay, so Monty, you got to keep me up to date. How many weapons have we played this game?
I'm thinking. I think it's just the 2. So okay. I think if we replay one here, we should see an Aatrox run.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Because,
first tumble. This is still the first tumble in hand. No catch has been played.
Yeah.
Looks like we're going to see a Darkened Harp.
I was just making sure because, like, I don't want to get overexcited and just miss the play where they catched and I just zoned out and didn't realize. So I'm glad that isn't the case. And like what I was going to be prepared for and saying about this Aatrox is Aatrox will get you back into the game. It gives you the stabilization point of basically also trading into the units, but also healing a bit. Aatrox is just such a tool of a card, right? In a good way. It's like a toolbox. It has too many things it does, and you will definitely see right now because I don't think Owen has a way to lethal, and if you can't lethal right now, it gives you the opportunity. There's no way, right?
No, we're good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we are good.
Okay, we're good. I was a little worried here for a second. I was a little concerned. I was like, we have 3 fish fight. We could just fish fight this. Like, we don't need to be taking this damage. We don't need to be developing this Aatrox. But looks like Kevlar has a plan, has it on lock here, is okay to give up the Vayne. Will be able to tumble in with this Aatrox, continuing to discount his World Ender. Could also tumble in with something else, but I think if he's going to go for a tumble this turn, it's to get a double Aatrox line out, and I kind of like the idea of that. World Ender going to go down to 7 here, can go down to 6 if the tumble comes out as well.
So, okay, so we can World Ender next turn. Therefore, it allows us to World Ender and tumble. So we do have lethal on the side of Kevlar here. He was navigating this super well to a point where, like I was saying before, he was thinking about 4 turns ahead, the best way how I can not die here and make any of these micro plays to a point where I can get into this game and not make any stuff like a Howard +1 be impactful here. And hey, he's doing it now. He understands maybe a potential play against like a Sentry, because that's the only real top deck you can do here, or a Fervor, and maybe just going for the open and not even World Endering here.
And yeah, this is very well played by Kevlar. Huge to identify that he has to take this risk of the flock, or to identify that there is no flock. I'm assuming that he's got a read if he's made this line. And he's set himself up for a lethal open swing. Doesn't even need to drop the World Ender. I imagine we're going to see it come down anyways, because there's not a whole lot of counterplay to it. And
yeah, we'll see it definitely. Wow. Okay. There's a lot of stuff this losers do, Kevin. Please don't do this. World shouldn't lose to anything because you have the Durels, right?
Mhm.
So because you have Durels, this shouldn't lose to anything. Owen here can actually have top deck outs. There was a Fervor, there was a Vile Feast, but it doesn't matter. He doesn't have it in the hand, and Kiva gets back into the game, giving a bit of light and a bit of hope for the Mayo Bandits for this set.
Yeah, Mayo Bandits got to be feeling good about that one. Obviously not out of the woods yet. Still stressed, still on the back rope, but a win is a start, and you got to start somewhere if you want to take it down and find the W. And while we're waiting for them to get into their second game, I do have some updates from the other quarterfinals matches here. Runeterra Pals are up 1-0 against Big Flex Gamers. Lower France took down Runeterra Exiled Ones 3-1. And TA Washed Up is currently 1-0 against the Crusty Geezers.
Well, or FR showing that doesn't matter if you're versing another great team, you're going to take the win. And yeah, really good to see. I mean, like Sequoia, I don't want to butcher the other names because it's really hard to say, but all those players are really good. And yeah, makes sense seeing that they were going into the semis. But back into this here, and Keva trying to be the one-man band here and hope to get another win against Alan.
Alan's showing he has an affinity for finding this Quinn. This is the second game we've seen her show up in the opening hand, despite her only being a one-of copy in the list. And she's going to provide just so much pressure in this matchup, Annie. Quinn being a 3-5 is kind of difficult for this deck to deal with. 5 HP is a lot. It's going to require multiple answers from the side of Kevlar. And Valor as well, being just another body. Obviously, there's lots of pings available to this Vandal City at the PNZ deck, but still, it's just one more card that's going to be spent, and it gives Alan a way to get some card equity back.
Yeah, this deck is probably your best chance to kind of beat the Vandal Seraphine deck. You don't really have much play about doing like, you look at this almost like, Vayne always beats Seraphine, and this is just another Vayne deck that is going to make awkward pressure. But I do say that with a bit of like open arms with this idea that Vandal can definitely win. And even though it's not the best into Demacia as the other ones, this one can still definitely find games, especially if you are a pilot like Kevlar on Seraphine.
Yeah, this Vandal Seraphine deck is very, very capable of just stealing away games that it has no business winning. If you can get both Seraphine and Ezreal on the board, there's almost nothing you can't do.
Right. We find that other pokey here means that we can kind of give up one and be okay with it. something that's really, really kind of cautious to think about is Valor Harp always, right? This is another way that gives consistency to the deck of a Aatrox Vayne, and it can kind of steamroll. So if you're kind of used to being okay with that and knowing when I can kill the Valor, you'll be okay, because if they go for that line, you know that it's going to slow down the game a tiny bit.
Valor with really any darkened weapon just expedites that World Ender flip so much. It's unbelievable how much faster you can get your Aatrox 2 online once if you've found a scout in your opener.
And here it goes. We get the Valor out here. Maybe Alan thinking, hey, look, they played one pokey. There's odds for maybe a less one here. And I got to get the ball rolling, right? My hand is not it. I need to try and just make risks here. I need to get the Seraphine out of the board, out of the game set at all. Because if I don't, it can definitely run with it, especially with Bar. But Kiva here, being really smart, wants to kind of play around Aegis, but opts out not to. Still fine, because if we put damage onto this Broadwing, even with Aegis, it won't be able to kill Seraphine.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of this line. I think going for both at the same time is a little ambitious, and I like that Kevor noticed that and kind of went back and decided I'll take this slower. But obviously it would have paid out for him quite significantly.
For sure. I mean, you don't want to get blown out by Catch, and Kev was just being, taking his time. He understands that, hey, I'm not actually going to be losing as hard right now because they don't really have a board anyway, right? So if I just let them do their thing, see if they have Catch. If they don't, I'm fine with it, and I'll be more than fine with it because this Broadwing is gone.
And now we go for it, I think. Yep, looks like Kevor agrees. It's just going to go ahead and try and take this Broadwing off the board. Of course, this can't be punished by Catch because of the formidable keyword working in the way it does. Might keep the Broadwing alive, but the Seraphine's going to stay alive as well. And, of course, there is no Catch from the side of Alan. So Seraphine has free reign to sit on this board uncontested.
Click in here. Probably the second best thing you wanted to see. I wanted to see a Firmo, especially with 6 mana, but Clicken is another capability to get Tempo back into the game or stabilize for Kiva, and this Quinn just gets absolutely willed out of the board state, right? And just goes, hey, I don't care.
Just send her back right now?
Yeah, I think so, because you give capability for Bar, and then you have to play it again, and then you can't play Aatrox.
Yeah, I guess so.
And then you have Rift as well. I mean, I can see why you would wait, right? And Kiva's probably just thinking about what I need to do next turn and how much mana I need for that next turn. Because Quicken will be 1 mana, so he's probably thinking okay, what will I need to be playing where I can utilize as much mana as I can to still be in this game? And he recognizes that if I play this first, it's good. Gives me probably 1 more mana for the next turn, and not only that, but it means I can just slow down the game anymore. And if they have Aatrox in hand, which they did just top deck now, as we know that they have a bit of a slow hand, so there's a possibility that they might be fine with it.
And with the Caustic Rift in hand as well, these Valors are not really a problem. Not super concerned about them.
You're super happy, that's for sure. I was just okay, this is my only out now. I have double harp, right? This is looking decent. I can actually just swing the game here. I can get all of this units out of the way and just go, hey, look, I'm now dealing, not only getting them all out of the way, I'm also dealing 11, right? But this Caustic Rift going to gain so much value, and Alan's just not finding Catch or a potential Aegis here to be any potential threat, and we just have to play it off the bat, and this Rift gonna be kind of juicy here.
Oh, yeah. We're feeling really good about this line. And Alan probably mauling a little bit, if I would have to guess, or at the very least, taking a look at his hand and going, Kurva. Trying to figure out how he can find the W now. Of course, he does have 2 Aatrox and lots of Seratu, so this game is not even close to over just yet. But it's looking pretty good for Kever.
Like, triple bar hands, pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I was an alcohol, I'd be super happy right now. But I'm super happy anyway, because I'm a degenerate spell enjoyer, and having triple bar means I can play most of my spells for free, with Israel to be potentially drawn into a way of just absolutely exploiting the game. But we do need to wait for that. The 8 mana play might be a bit awkward, and even though we bar, there is a few ways where this Aatrox does have leeway to be okay with us. But man, just having mana reduction like this is absolutely insane.
Not only mana reduction, but mana generation. This Otterpuss is now going to be +1 mana instead of net neutral. Absolutely hilarious.
And the catalysm here comes out pretty important. We know that the Seraphine now has a lot of value on the basis of basically having 2 bars, right? It does mean that we can get the wallop out. A bit awkward though, because Fish Fight has a potential play as well. And yep, Kevlar does agree. Stops it here, and we might need to be signposting, even though this might not be great, but I assume on the basis of how this game is going, and with them not really playing much, or attacking much with the weapons, you can kind of afford it instead of doing it with the World Ender.
We'll see if Kevlar does decide to go for the signpost. I was going to point this play out, though. This is why I'm a big fan of the wall up. Not only does it let your Seraphine survive, but it lets you go after the Queen, which is the only threat Alan currently has going for himself.
Yeah, it just dwindles down that health by 1 and makes Fish Fight not even be a possibility here. You also push 5 damage. Kevlar looking really sweet in this game. As Owen, what are we doing here? Are we just like Shirating, or do we have to just Aatrox and hope that this... We can't even double... can we double Fish Fight? We'll have 10 mana, so we can double Fish Fight. I guess that gives you some leeway here. Yeah,
this is not
guess
great though.
No, it's not. But no, you don't go for that Aatrox line, and you just Shiratu here, trying to find some value. And this Telzone is looking pretty good, Monty. We can even make it a 1-1 or steal it. But I assume we're going for... yeah, so we're just going to kill it off the bat. Seraphine levels up, because Aftershock is initially a free cost card. With the bar of it being reduced, allows you to play Aftershock here for a DL6. We know that Cash hasn't been played at all, hasn't really been in the hand of Owen. Means that we can remove the Shiratu and we get a bar back again from that charm, meaning we can generate 3 new cards from the side of Kevlar.
Yeah, that charm pickup was kind of huge.
It's insane, but we get even more bars here down. This is -3, and
Alan just says, nope, I'm out.
Surrenders. What a poetic victory from Kevlar. Alan, the Seraphine King, right? The one who's called his team after this perfect card, and then boom, Kevlar shows him who's boss. Shows him that, hey, look, Europe, they play a lot of cool control decks, but I am the bearer of bad news, and I can play it better. And that was a perfect game from Kevlar, utilizing any potential RNG to his advantage.
Yeah, very, very well played by Kevlar there. We saw Alan come out swinging and be absolutely dominant in the first 2 sets, and then Kevlar comes up and he's like, we French Canadians, we don't take this lying down. And he showed Alan who was boss. Like, that was very, very well played from both sides, I think. Alan definitely a little bit unlucky with those draws, especially in that game 2, was not what you wanted to see. Triple Fish Fight, Cataclysm, and basically no units aside from the Quinn. Really, really rough hands there, but sometimes it's just the way it goes. Alan did a phenomenal job putting his team in a commanding position. Now we'll see if Seraphine Fan Club's next player can take it down and find that lock down the win for their team, or if Kevlar is going to continue pushing the MAYO Bandits back into the set and striving for a W. I think we're going to cut to one more quick break before the next set, but I did want to give just another shout out to the lovely charity we partnered up with. Once again, we've partnered up with To Write Love on Her Arms, which is a charity centered around helping people find resources for mental health issues such as anxiety, depression, and unaliving yourself. We got to use Twitch-friendly wording. If you would like to donate, there is a QR code that you can see below me there. Feel free to give that a scan, and it'll take you directly to the Tiltify page where you can help support this wonderful initiative. But with that, we will be right back to catch all the rest of this action and take it to end. Blah, 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 blah. I'm losing my tongue. Cut!
Yeah, we'll be back soon. Having a quick short break, and we'll see if Kevo can keep going on and beating the Seraphine fan club. So we'll see you again in a few minutes.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to your Aegis EMEA quarterfinals. I'm Monty, joined by Annie, and we're here to watch the MAYO Bandits up against Seraphine Fan Club. We've seen a phenomenal set of games so far. Started out with Alan taking down Sonicaholic, quick 2-0. Deep, unfortunately, was not the bring today, as we found out in that series. Then Alan continued his domination, running through Ultraman in Series 2. Very unfortunate for him that Ziggs wasn't able to find a win that series either. And we just got back from watching Kevor find the first victory for the MAYO Bandits to keep them in this series, bring us to a set 4. And now we're going to see Kevor go up against Pavlici. And Annie, this is a very interesting series of lineups. Kevor got the good lineup, right? He wasn't the one who was shafted on his team. We were talking earlier in the show how there are really only 3 good decks right now, and due to the format constraints of Aegis, that means that somebody's getting shafted with the lineup. Pavlici, on the other hand, did a very good job of finding 3 decks that maybe aren't the tier 1, but should be more than able to hold their own and at least give him a chance of fighting Kevor off here. We've got your pretty classic plunder list, which we're going to get into right now. And alongside it, he's brought Akshan Siverbaris and Jinx Lulu. But here's the plunder list. Annie, take it away.
Yeah, right. So this plunder list has kind of gained some traction, especially before the new cards were released. You have a few interesting things. Shell Shock is a very nice inclusion. You've also got the typical stuff like Tusk Speaker, Mariah Warden, all the stuff like Black Market Merchant. But the card that this is really built around right now and why we have stuff like Yordle Grifter not in the deck is because of Spirits Unleashed. You play this a lot earlier in your games and you try and make your board-based deck become even more buffier while also proccing Plunder. So it gives you a bit of leeway here and makes the deck a bit faster. However, there is a few problems with this. One, even though Yordle Grifter is probably the solo card here, and matchups where Sejuani matters more, there's a lot less utilization for a potential board freeze. And if you can't reliably board freeze, decks like Red Glen that might look unfavored can definitely run away because you might need to be warning shotting earlier or something just to proc Plunder, right? So on paper, this deck looks pretty good, but there's a few things that can definitely fall flat for it, and it's a very, very 50 deck. And it's not a 50 deck like Red Glen where you can kind of outskill matchups. It's more like a 50-50 deck where you're just like, my hand is not good for this matchup. I'm going to lose this 50-50 because I didn't draw the other half that I needed. So really interesting build of the deck right now, and I don't know about it, doing well, but for Pavlici's sake, let's hope.
I hope so too. Seraphine Fan Club definitely wants to be able to close this out and take it down. Pavlici, of course, wants to find this victory over Kevor here, so everybody can go home and call it a night. Kevor, of course, wants to keep it in it, wants to keep the MAYO Bandits winning, keep their dreams alive. Thinking about bans, though. What? It's got to be the Seraphine deck banned from the side of Kevor, right?
Well, the side of Kevor,
Pavlici's banning Kevor's Seraphine list, exactly like we saw.
Yeah, 100%. Now, do we ban the Lulu Jinx here? I think so, because it can run through Aatrox and Red Glen, and here it goes. Kevor agrees and says, hey, I don't want to face Lulu Jinx. This deck's pretty good, and now you have a decent amount of openings against, I don't want to say bad decks, but they're definitely not as strong as Red Glen and Aatrox here.
Yeah. I think it's pretty unarguable that Aatrox is like uncontested tier 1, and then everything else is kind of like tier 1. Like Red Gwen and Seraphine decks are tier 1.5, and then everything else there's a pretty big gap between 1.5 and 2 at this point. So we'll see if Pavlici can use his skills, as he is a very, very strong player, to offset that gap a little bit. But Kevor, of course, Not a player to scoff at either. One of the best in the Americas region. And out for blood here against the EMEA players.
Would you say he's the best Canadian player? Or do you think Cuppa's mine is slightly a bit? I think it's close, right?
It's really close.
Right. Because I think Canada has so many elite players, it's tough to say. Because even someone like Douglas is just such a good player. Canada as a region is crazy. But we should probably not get sidetracked and talk about regions. We should probably talk about these players here. And I think a lot of people might know of Pavlici being very stat heavy, but playstyle wise, he's a very heavy mid range player, kind of resorting back to stuff like Ash LeBlanc. And looking at this lineup, it is very, very indicative of that. And this is fully mid range. Besides the aspect of maybe Siva, it's somewhat combo, but yeah, pretty very comfortable for Pavlici as a lineup.
Yeah, for sure. And both of these players going back a long time. Both of them have been in the scene for ages. Both of them know the ins and outs of the game and are both very, very strong elite players coming from their respective regions. So that's one of the things I love most about Aegis is that every match is a huge, it's a big match. It's something worth watching. You very rarely get a matchup in this league where two players are unevenly matched or where there's a big blowout. Especially with this season, teams were a lot more balanced, competition was a lot more balanced, and just some of the best Runeterra I've ever seen has come out of this tournament series.
Yeah, that's the thing, especially with the EMEA season, I think there's almost nothing but killers on teams, right? And it feels like every potential matchup, especially in these playoffs, are pay-per-views. Literally, you have Teddy, person who almost got a quadfecta of winnings in this tournament series. And when I say a quadfecta, he's an EU Masters winner, he's an Aegis winner, he's also a seasonals winner, and almost won Worlds. And when you have people like that in the league, it's pretty intense.
Here we are going to see the mulligan come out. It is going to be Red Gwen from the side of Kevor up against Pavlici's Varys Akshan Siverlist. Both these players looking to be starting off quite strong.
Right, and we just keep the Vagabond here because this is somewhat a combo-oriented deck. You need the Horde for this deck to kind of do anything here on the basis, because if you don't really know this deck, what this deck is trying to do is it's utilizing Glaive and it's trying to make these hordes go down as fast as possible and go for a certain combo out with Absolver and the Horde propped. So you kind of use that, and then you use stuff like Cone of Cold. I say Cone of Cold even though it's Unforgiving Cold. We are not playing Hearthstone. And you kind of use that to slow down the game and find your way for the win. But it is a very, very slow deck.
Kevor is the opposite of slow right now. He's come out of this gate very, very strong, has the Butler for turn 1, has the Prodigy for turn 2, and now can develop out not one, but 2 rear guards. This is a lot of damage being threatened right now, and Pavlici doesn't have many blockers.
Yeah, well, we were saying, right, this deck is pretty slow. Pavlici has to play the Vagabond here. And this rear card is yucky for Pavlici. Look at this. This is 6 plus another 6 coming out. You're probably blocking the 2-2. That means you're dealing 8, 10 here already on turn 3. What are we, an aggro deck? What are we, spiders? Hello?
Yep. We removed the Elise from these lists, but somehow got more aggressive.
This card is such, one of the best 2-drops you could play for Red Glen, right? And it allows you to free up that Katarina spot so well.
I can't believe people thought that card wasn't good. Do you know how many people I saw saying, why would you play this over Elise? Why would you play this over Phantom Butler? Oh, it's just going to get pinged and then you're not going to get anything. And it's like, are you crazy? It's 2 attackers in 1 card. That alone should tell you that it's worth playing. Have we ever had a card with 2 units in 1 that hasn't been played? Even Petty Officer was played at one point.
It was, yeah.
So I don't know. I thought there was so much copium on people saying that this card wasn't good, and it's like it's the most obviously good card we've seen in a long time, in my opinion. It demands removal on the spot, and if it doesn't, and if there is no blocker for it, it just continues to grow. It's literally infinite value. Any infinite value cards are OP.
They can be. At the same time, this game is very fast, so infinite value doesn't hold off that much anymore. This is why you don't see stuff like Revenant being as popular. But something that is popular is this red green deck. I think we always see it in tournaments now because how strong it is. And looking at this hand from the side of Kiva, I'm just so happy here. And even though you would think, hey, look, if they've been playing a lot of one drops, I might have a chance to stabilize. But Pavelici's deck just loses so much potential for that based on it being very combo heavy and it running weird interaction spells.
Now, Pavlici, we may even see him keep the 4-1 back, just so he has a target for this Furious Wielder next turn. Looks like he's not. He's going to go for the full swing here instead, maybe just opting to use the momentous choice to keep it alive if he so chooses. I imagine Kevlar is going for the block here, though.
Chrono utilizes these rear guards for not being able to block and trying to find some way of racing. Not that good because we still have the Boisterous Host, and I think Kiva realized that this might be a potential from Pavlici, so this is why you played the 2-drop here. I really like that over the Reckoner as well, and this is very, very nice because it allows you to play the other Reckoner here, and they have no units in.
Very true. Very, very true. The Minotaur Reckoner is just such a strong card in this deck. Giving you access to the can't block keyword is unbelievably powerful. And it's like, this deck makes use of that card like no other. Just because everything works perfectly for it. You really need an overwhelm threat in this list, and it gives you one. You need continual value, it gives you that. You want to remove pesky units from your opponent's side, it gives you that.
Yeah, it's a very high base tempo play here, and Pavlici top decks the Lunari. Not really what you want because now you're not allowed to actually do much here. There's like you can't really Unforgiving Cold. It only slows down the game from you not dying. But the thing is, you're not trading into anything. That's really problematic here, and it might mean you have to go for a Furious Wielder play.
Looks like Pavlici is just going to go ahead and try and save some HP this way.
Right.
We'll definitely see the Unforgiving Cold come out here, though.
Yep. Even though this is the case, just not being able to trade into anything is awkward here, especially with the Reckoner in hand. It means that Pavlici will always be in the back foot. There is some way to get a potential lethal here, but we just can't kill off this Reckoner for that lethal to be a possibility.
No, we can't. And interestingly enough, Pavlici may end up saving himself on the next turn because he has no units to develop outside of the Solani. We may see that he just goes for an attack and holds this Unforgiving Cold, and then the Minotaur or the Ruined Reckoner from the side of Kevlar is effectively useless. But he may burn himself instead and just figure he's out of options but to develop the Zolani. And then I'm sure we will see the Reckoner come in, forcing a trade onto the Zolani and freeing up Kevlar for an open attack into his following turn.
There's some problems with that, and that's the basis of like you're already ahead, right? So if they have to cold this turn, you're just winning next turn, and this Unforgiving doesn't really win here. Archon though, good top deck. Not sure if it does much besides be a potential blocker. So okay, let's think about this, right? Because this is a game state where it might look bad for Pavlici, but there's still a chance. I don't think we can try and go for an aggressive line, even though it might be the potential to do so, but it's just awkward. Like, you being down one less action means that they can play even more units. And if that's the case, then you still can just pressure well. So this looks like you have to kind of play to survive. It's really awkward.
I kind of just have to go for a swing here with the Merciless Hunter, I think. I don't know if you can commit to dropping below certain mana points, but maybe if you're playing to win, you just have to.
Yeah, it's weird. You have to kind of hope if you're playing for this win line, you have to hope that they have no units. But you just this weird action-based thing of needing to play the Bloodletters on this turn is just really awkward here for Pavlici.
And I like Kevor playing this 2-drop instead of the Reckoner. Holding back his resources, not revealing his hand just yet, giving Pavlici more time to dump mana, play under that Unforgiving Cold, play under that Furious Wielder. Saying, hey, I don't have anything. I know your hand's bricky, but look, if I had it, I would play something already. And there's the Akshan coming down, which means that Kevor is now good to go in for a swing if he wants. Reckoner comes down.
I mean, I think he would have been more happy if the Cold was played this turn, because the Cold gains more value on the basis of proccing 2 things here, but this is really awkward as well, because Pavlici he doesn't want to pass here, right? But you give an extra Hollowed unit, and if this is actually weird, because this might actually be a potential lethal, right? Obviously, there is Momentous, but if this can buff to a certain point where you attack into the Hollowed, it would be awkward. But might not be the case here.
Pavlici actually has the option to pop the Landmark right now if he wants to and develop a Sandstone Charger or something as a blocker. Decides not to, doesn't need to. Honestly, probably not the best play to do that. Predict or buffing the attack, likely just a better option here. Could he have, in any world, presented a lethal swing this turn? So if he pops the Landmark, that's +3, +4, that's a total of 7. He's off by 1.
Yeah, I don't think there is any potential way, just because you couldn't really trade into stuff, and them playing all these units as much as possible is pretty important. But Kevor looking really nice here. This is really awkward. Goes down to 1 here. 4 damage comes in through. Still has a Momentous. We can actually kill off our own Reckoner as well and make them almost have no blockers. This is not that good because of the potential play from Pavlici's Sandstone Charger. But that is a line. Otherwise, we're probably full swinging here. And what do we need to play around? Just Cold and Wielder?
Which are the exact 2 cards that Pavlici has.
But they're just not wide enough. No. So this has to be game here for Kevor. Pavlici just thinking about anything I can do. Can I draw anything? Do I need to draw it now? Do I need to get a unit now? Trying to think of any potential line here, but pass is the priority. Back to Kevor's attack token here. Kevor now looking for the top deck, but it won't even matter. Goes for the full swing, and we know what's in the hand of Pavlici. I don't think there is a way he can survive here.
Oh, and this is brilliant by Kevor. He's playing around the Unforgiving Cold.
Look, we've been talking it up. Kevor is a good player, and this is why. We want the Overwhelm to go through. It won't go through, but he's trying to play as much as possible, seeing how he can do it as best, and now this will go through. With the Overwhelm, stopping any potential out here, even if you Furious Wielder and Cold, there is a line. You're still going wide. He's thinking of any potential play to play around, and this is why Kevor's one of the best, and why you're going to see him get a win over Pavlici in this game.
Yeah, Mayo Bandit's got to be happy to see Kevor take down game 1 in this second series. He is definitely holding it down the fort and keeping them in it. And here we see the Unforgiving Cold played out, but of course we know that it's not going to be quite enough. Even alongside that Furious Wielder, unfortunately, focus speed means that the Charger is not going to be able to be developed here.
Right, and Kevor just played super well there. Think of any potential way that he could lose us and keeping the dream alive for the Mayo Bandits. Just playing absolutely incredible. And we've been saying it, Kevor is good. You want Kevor on your team for stuff like this because he's kind of broken and we're seeing it right now.
I have had the misfortune of playing against Kevor in Iron Man format like this.
Yeah.
The man is an absolute beast. He is so strong coming out of the gates, and you do not want to play against him when he's the anchor for the team. Now, I'm sure Seraphine Fan Club are feeling a little bit better about their chances than normal because, of course, they had Alan as their lead, and he came out so strong himself. But now we'll see if Pavlici can take this game 2 back and turn it into a game 3, giving his team a chance to close it out, or if Kevor's going to continue steamrolling Seraphine Fan Club to find a victory for the MAYO Bandits.
Yep. Kevor just saying, hey, you think you could have done that with Alan? I'm going to show you the true Friola here, and it might happen. We see a very nice hand from Kevor. We have a couple of weapons. We also have Harp, will be very nice pressure against Pavlici, and Pavlici now. What do you think Pavlici's game plan? It's definitely probably a siege one, right? That's what we'll probably go for.
I think it has to be, right? That's kind of the whole point of the whole idea behind playing this deck. Right now, I think he's got to go for this open attack is interesting because I don't think this is going to actually work in your favor for a Sedge proc.
It isn't if you utilize this catch, and I think this is what Kev is going to do at all. Tough, good keyword against anything builds water, and that's what we're seeing. We're getting this out, making this become a free one here, and stopping the plunder on the side of Pavlici.
Absolutely.
You know,
and now we'll see if Pavlici decides to go for a 2-drop to guarantee that proc, or if he's just going to wait and develop out maybe something like a Shell Shocker here.
Wow. I guess it makes somewhat sense because you're thinking the Tusk Speaker might be better to proc plunder, so you're putting this down as a potential out to block this 2-2 or the 3-1, which isn't horrible. But at the same time, it means you're just saying you're not going to draw a plunder proc, which is kind of weird.
I like holding back the Tusk Speaker there. I think you've already missed on this round, right? You don't have any other plunder activators for your off round in hand right now, and because of the way they built this deck, there aren't a whole lot, right? We're not on Grifters. We're on 3 Warning Shot, 3 Spirits, but those are kind of clunky to play on your off turn sometimes. So I think holding the Tusk Speaker to guarantee that you have a proc for your off turn where you normally wouldn't is going to end up resulting in an overall faster Sedge flip than just dropping it on this turn, because then you'd have to miss the next turn anyways.
Yeah, and I really also like this Harp here. Really important to push that through just for a few things, basically. You're like, not only that, but the Eye of Nakakuburas could have gained value there, which is kind of funny if you went for the open. So I really just do like the Harp and, you know, just keep putting on pressure for Killer.
I'm a big fan of that play as well. And I was just going to give all of our lovely viewers an update from the other side of the quarters, from the other quarterfinals here. TA Washed Up Heroes went 3-0 against the Krusty Geezers. Runeterra Pals are currently up 2-0 against Big Flex Gamers. And Lore France is 3-0 as previously, or 3-1 as previously mentioned against REO.
Yep. So, Washed Up Heroes showing how they're pretty good at the game. Do we know who 3-0'd in Washed Up Heroes? I'm pretty intrigued if it was Teddy. Not that I'm a Teddy fanboy or anything.
It was Teddy.
Okay, it was Teddy. Okay, pack it up. Back it up. We know who's winning the season. That might have been the case last season, but there's a lot more. There's a really good amount of people here, and even though seeing Teddy 3-0 just casually like all the time, we know people like Kevor and Pavlici talking about this game could definitely be Teddy. We know that for a fact, and let's get back in this game about these players, and this is looking
strange.
It's looking strange. Yeah, strange is the word.
I'm baffled by the way this was played. Why did we not go for draw to get a plunder proc there?
It's really weird. I guess we might be going for. Yeah, I don't know. Why don't we just play Zap Spraven or something?
There's just I don't. You know what the answer is? But Bow's attack was just like, hey, you guys know it would make for great content if you just let me hold it down. So maybe Pavlich is just letting Baj have an opportunity, being a good teammate that way. I don't know.
That could be it. Maybe they're watching the broadcast, in breaks and heard how we didn't want to cast Alan's game due to the analytical power of how much he possesses, right? And was like, okay, let's give them a bit of justice. Let's get Alan off the bench and let Pavlici play. But yeah.
Here we are going to see more bloodletters created, or played, more thralls created rather for the side of Kevor. Or at least the option for more thralls. And that's also going to cause Aatrox to be drawn out of the deck. Now, Kevor's list here is playing this, what's that card called? Light of Icathia? Not something we see every game.
I think it's raw, or it's light or raw, but yeah, it was played in the initial versions, and then people realized it wasn't really a good card.
Mm-hmm.
And I do agree with that. I think it's just too slow, too bricky, but it does have its moments. Talking about moments, Vayne coming down is very important because this game has been very weird. There hasn't been any real plunder procs at all. So it allows you to kind of get some tumble value and hope that they're not going to really get this sedge off in time. But saying that, Zap is played, and sadly not a make it rain, but we do have a warning shot for another plunder proc.
I wonder if Pavlich is going to even use that this turn, though. I probably wouldn't. You're going to want those for when Sedge is actually flipped. Like you said earlier, you're going to need a way to guarantee that plunder proc and plunder proc, not plunder plock. And that can be difficult in this list. But looks like he does decide that he's too far behind, can't afford to wait any longer, needs to start getting this level up happening.
Yeah, and we're just trying to put as much pressure as possible, make these pseudo-thralls be a pressure target. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to make these can't block blockers have no defensive tool and only be offensive to the point where, they might not have any blockers. And we're being very offensive here, getting the harp out as well, knowing that they have no actual units to play outside of these two on the board. And this is looking scary. We can't go down to 2. There's too much leeway for Kevor to, go over the top with. And even this here, just these 4-3s attacking you just so freely feel so weird for Pavlici to deal with.
Yeah, you really can't go down to 2 because then you're forced into blocking every single tumble that follows up.
Right.
So,
and then
very heads up.
Very, very heads up and all. We are probably going to get a siege play here, right?
I think so. We're going to see Pavlici go after the Vayne. And it's going to work.
It will work. I'm trying to think, is there a way where we can kill Sedge here? And I don't think that is the case.
We can double fish fight.
Where's our fish fight coming from? Where's our other fish fight coming from?
Oh, no, I'm blind. There's only one fish fight in hand.
Yeah, there's only one fish fight in hand. We do have Aatrox, so we can maybe kill it next turn. But that's awkward as well. Wow. What isn't awkward is a 5-mana World Ender. Hello? How many attacks have we been doing this game? I didn't even realize, but this is like the cheapest one I've ever seen on turn 6. This is insane.
I don't know if I've ever seen one come down on turn 6 and cost less. This is absurd.
This is really absurd here, and we're talking about the deck tech and why this might be a bit scary that you're not on your Drifter, but we top deck another Plunder trigger, allowing us to still stick into the game for Pavlici. This World Ender.
Just in time.
Being a threat here and almost ending the game, we actually get a Plunder proc, allowing you to slow it out and just see what you can get here for the next following turns.
And Kev, we're very happy to have this this tumble in his hand as a backup plan for future turns, because as we can see, Pavlici is going to be able to freeze the board down this turn. Sejuani went to 4 last round with both the Spirits Unleashed and the Warning Shot. We are going to see her flip and activate this turn as well. And here comes the Spirits Unleashed.
Right. And the thing is, if you have some capability to try and tumble right on their own offensive turn, and they have to use maybe something like a Warning Shot that they top deck, it's not good for Pavlici, right? So the tumble becomes really, really important just to give you an extra way of getting out upon the proc. But saying that, we do have a Sejuani on board, and it will give us some capability here to slow down the game and maybe get Gangplank out for the next turn and get something going for Pavlici.
And Kembar just looking to see if he wants to play out the Seratu. I would honestly like to see a fish fight attempted, but I understand why he's doing it this way. So there's 2 schools of thought, right? You go for the fish fight first, draw out the freeze. If they don't have it, you're winning the game on the spot. If they do have it, you're a little bit sad because you're down a fish fight, and, well,
you win on the spot no matter what. I think the fish fight's nice on the basis of your Zolani not being dwindled, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's probably why I would fish fight, just so I don't have a 0, a 10-4, and I'm like a 10-1. But
mm-hmm.
I think right now it's okay because this fish fight might gain. I don't actually. I'm thinking about this play, and I'm backtracking here because they can actually get. They can't get through.
I think both choices are reasonable, right? I think one is you're checking pre-attack and then you have bigger defense. Other one, you check with the attack and then there's a better chance that you can remove the Sejuani on the following turn.
This is very important for Gangplank. So I was thinking about it in my mind, and the only thing that Pavlici can do, they can't actually block before. Like, if we took this board state without the new Mirai, there is a participation or a school of thought to say that, yeah, I can hold on to the fish fight on the basis of them playing Gangplank, right? But they could just go wider, which is somewhat unfortunate. So it's close, but maybe we do have to just say I'm going to fish fight anyway, because like you said, you went on the spot, and then you keep your stuff healthy if that's the case. So I actually really do like that fish fight, and Pavlici trying to find some leeway here. We're going to be attacking a lot. We're going to be trying to stop everything in front of us, block as much as we can, and we'll at least get 11 damage on the side of Pavlici. And I know something's in hand, and that's a Furious Widow. We're just short here from lethal.
Yeah, just a little bit shy here.
A little 2 procs. Like, it wouldn't really be a little if we had, if they're on 1, because basically when you're plunder and they're at 1, you've won the game. But being 2 off would be problematic. But Kiva can also just be a bit safer here and just say, hey, I'm going to stop all this potential stuff.
And Kibor just deciding whether he wants to trade down more units or block and save more HP here. I like the first 3 set up as they are. Pretty happy with that. But then you have the choice. Do you want to save 1 more point of HP, or do you want to remove 1 more attacker, which may save you more than 1 point of HP in a following turn?
And Kibble also being, Kibble also utilizing Aatrox as well. So even though it looks like there's 11 damage being dealt, it's actually only 9. Aatrox, like we said before, it's just, I don't know why it heals, but it does. And we're going to see that could definitely be, a deciding factor.
It certainly can be. Aatrox kind of heals for absurd amounts. It's ridiculous how much that guy will heal you for every single game. I think if they were going to nerf him, that's a really good place to start.
It's purely insane, just randomly getting this health. But yeah, look, Pavlici trying to do as much as he can. He had a bit of a slow hand, and getting these double blood leaders allows us to get another Aatrox in hand, right? But we won't be doing that because Sriracha's is better with Tumble, and it allows us to dwindle the board and even get a fish fight to take out the Sejuani if there wasn't a Fury of the North or another in hand.
We are going to see the fish fight come out, though, maybe?
Yes, and not utilizing this tumble here. Interesting. Okay. We could have just tumbled first. Okay. I understand why this is a play. It's because you're scared of Fury, right?
Yeah. You don't want to lose your Seratu.
Okay, so if that was the case, is there any way we can still kill it? Wow. And we just want to heal it up. Yep, Fury doesn't matter. They were more incentivized to Fury if that was the case with the tumble play, but allows him to just replay the 7-8 Sejuani on Pavlici's side.
We just play 2 Zolani now?
Yeah, let's just keep Zolani. Yeah, sure. We just keep making big boys, because, like, this is going to be very tough for Pavlici if he doesn't find the plunder here. And talking about that, Monty, it will be the next turn. After Kevo presses this, and will Pavlici get the plunder proc that he needs? Well, he's got an eye.
Doesn't find it, but has a shot at finding it. And now, Eddie, even if this goes, even if he finds the plunder proc, Kevor still has a very good shot at winning this. He can still find ways to come out ahead with a rally by making more Zolanis. This Aatrox is discounting them so much, and he has access to both another Thrall and the Zolani in hand already, that I think he's just good even if it happens. He can rally with 2 more 7 attacking Zolanis, maybe even 3 more 7 attacking Zolanis.
Doesn't matter,
but
though,
it doesn't
because they
matter.
can't get any plunders, and that is the game for Kevor. Kevor 2-0s here and makes it go to best of 5. The last set will be Kevor versus Badge Attack. He's insane. Look.
Unbelievable.
We were saying that the only world ender of this Aatrox mirror in this horrible format of, these decks here is a person on a good deck lineup and a person who can play absolutely insane, and that's Kevor. And he's just absolutely demolishing them.
Yeah, Kevor is going absolutely nuts today. He saw Alan take down his teammates very quickly. He's like, I ain't standing for this. I ain't standing for this. We don't take this in Quebec. We don't take things like this lying down. So he's come back. He's put himself in the position to come out ahead. He's done very, very well in these first 2 sets. And now he's got to take down Baj to find the win for the Mayo Bandits. Can he find the reverse sweep and lock it down for his team? Or will Baj get revenge now that he's seen his teammates go down? And will he be fueled up and powered up by his teammates' failures? We'll find out right after this short break. But don't forget also that we have partnered up with a lovely charity to write love on her arms. If you'd like to donate to them and help their cause in unaliving prevention, addiction help, depression and anxiety help, eating disorder helps, self-injury help, trauma help, and all sorts of other mental health concerns, feel free to do so by scanning that QR code. But with that, we'll be right back. Catch you guys after this break. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to what is going to be the final series of the day. This is your Aegis EMEA quarterfinals, and we're watching Seraphine Fan Club up against Anymoore's MAYO Bandits, and I'm Monty, joined by Any himself.
That's me.
Any, you excited to see if Kevor can take down Bajatak and help your team find the W and find their way to the semifinals?
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily want to say it's my team because I think it's their team. I only sponsored and kind of helped to find, players to be on this team. And one of those inclusions in the last inclusions was Kevor. And, I'm really happy to see that he could play in Aegis because he wasn't going to play in the Americas one. And you're seeing how he's utilizing this pickup on being on the team, right? Like, he really is showing his money's worth and why he should be on any potential Aegis team, because he's literally making it his business to win. He's versing literally the best players you can have on the server, and he's making it look like nothing. So, yeah, I mean, it's 4-0 to Kevor. Owen did 4-0 and then said, that doesn't matter, I'm going to do it. And Kevor now has to face Baja and probably a similar good deck versus good deck lineup. And he's got a tough opponent, 2-time Worlds contender, and a person who's been in top 8 before in Worlds. And we'll see if Kevor can bring it home for the MAYO Bandits.
I'm super excited to see what he's got. I mean, we've seen him have such a standout performance already, but his opponent is not one to go down easily. Bajatak, one of EMEA's best, world's competitor, phenomenal player, streamer. I'm sure you all know and love him at this point. And these two players are on the exact same lineup. So it really is going to come down to player skill and player diff. And here we see Bajatak's list. This is a very, very standard list here with the addition of one riposte. And we see here that they're also on Roar Vicathia, which we were talking about a little bit in the last series, is not being so standard these days. But looks like both of these players have decided that it is worth its spot as a one of.
Yeah, so this repost here allows you to be better into the mirror. I think if you have to have the option to keep up Aatrox, this is such a good tech card. And I mean, look at it. It might be the case we might need to actually keep up Aatrox here and be good into the other stuff, because all of his decks can beat Aatrox, right? It's not horrible. And if we have to keep up Aatrox on the side of Kevor, then you're pretty rewarded. And I know I don't like to play into repos because them holding 4 mana knows that if I play into it, I lose into the game. So very, very nice addition. Especially I've been seeing it from majority of European players.
Very traditional counter to very traditional way to give yourself a leg up in Demacia mirrors. Something that fell out of favor for a while when we kind of saw Demacia fall out of favor for a while, but with Demacia becoming more and more prevalent, yet again, we've seen this older tech of riposte coming back in. Went a little bit out of favor with the Kaisa realm of things because she has pings, and same with the MF realm of things because, again, she has pings. But in these very, very board-centric matchups, barriers are such a powerful effect.
For sure, and we're not on anything crazy for equipment either. We're on Bloodletters, we're on all the good stuff, and 2 Darkened Spear. Very, very standard. And yeah, 2 Valor, I'm not too sure. Catch is a free op, which is very, very interesting, and it could definitely be very important in, Demacia mirrors.
I like 3 of Catch in this list a lot myself, especially if you're on 11 weapons. I think being able to turn the Darkened Spear into an HP buff is great. I think giving your units tough on command is something that we've always seen Demacia really, really appreciate. So not playing any copies of Ranger's Resolve or anything like that turns Catch into a pseudo Ranger's Resolve alongside the Aegis. So I really like the way it interacts with this deck. Even just letting you create an extra unit with the Bloodletters and the Thrall can be valuable in some situations. That extra point of attack as well, letting you increase your trade breakpoints. So We'll see if Baj can use catch to its full power to come out ahead in this series, or if Kevor is going to continue the 2-0 domination and knock Baj down and lock it down for the Mayo Bandits.
Yeah, I mean, literally mirrors. So
Yeah.
I was looking at this list, seeing like any potential, leeway for a person, and I think Baja in the mirror, if it went to a Red Glen mirror, he might be slightly favored because it's less aggressive. Therefore, you have more tempo potential mid to late game, which wins you the mirror more. The thing is, you can definitely. So okay, let me break it down. Right, majority of how mirrors go in Runeterra is they're very, very tempo based. So if you gain majority of tempo early, that's really good. But if you can't lead with it, the person who has that mid game tempo might swing back with it. So there's a few other mirror breakpoints, but usually it comes down to tempo. And if you're on the better list that can kind of resolve around that, you're going to be favored. And we've seen this multiple times. We've seen it in the Scion mirror. We've seen certain tech things that might give you a bit more tempo, and it takes you through to just a little bit of a percentage point where you can win. So that being said, Baja might have the slight edge with it. Definitely, it's hard to say though because at the same time those one drops are pretty good, and they can also gain tempo. So very, very close, and it might come down to the bans here.
I think this might finally be the series we see the gentleman's agreement ban on Aatrox. But I don't know. I really have no idea what the players are going to do here, and it looks like Baj is going to take the Aatrox out. Does Kevor respond in kind, or does he go with a different ban?
I think Kevor might actually go to the weakness of Baja here and keep up something that he's not great at playing. Even though he's such a well-known and just an elite player anyway, he might just go into destroying the comfort pick for Bayer, and that is the case. Bayer now can't play Israel Seraphine and gets it out of the way. It means that Kevor just trying to play into the weaknesses of his opponent and deal with this Aatrox and saying, hey, I'm going to skill diff.
Yeah, I like this a lot, mostly because we're not going to have to sit here through two mirrors. Big fan of that. Thank you, Kevor. Mirrors are not the most interesting games to cast because, as you mentioned previously, a lot of it comes down to tempo, which can often come down to draw difference in this game. Of course, despite saying that, I think the Aatrox mirrors get relatively interesting at times, especially when both players are drawing well. As we saw earlier today, there's a lot of nuance to that matchup and a lot of ways that you can navigate it to come out ahead. And I would have been very curious to see how both of these players manage that mirror, but I'm happy that we're not going to have to deal with it now.
Yeah, for sure. But now, like you were saying, it just comes down to what will be played and wondering what sets we will get. And it is the Red Glen into Aatrox. Now, Aatrox, I'm pretty sure it's slightly favored over Red Glen, but there is definitely capabilities where you're fine here, and you can definitely deal one for the side of Kevor. And this is not a hand we want to see on Kevor's side.
No, the one of Cat is great. The second one is not what you want to be seeing, at least not right now, not until the first one goes down. Valfi's not going to be super effective in this matchup either, given that the opponent has access to things like Catch and the Dark and Aegis. Speaking of the devil.
Catch is picked up here, which is like you were saying, Vile loses value because of those cards, but if they don't have it, those Harp into Valor lines become very, very very not needed, right? And kind of not good at all. But sadly, Catch being there means that won't be a possibility.
And Baya here just deciding if he wants to play the Aegis or just take an open attack. Maybe even threaten something with an open pass. Looks like he is going to go for the open pass here. Now, Kevor has the option to play out this Butler or take the pass, develop the Katarina, and say, deal with my attack. I love this, but it is going to end up being punished quite significantly. If Baj sees it anyways. I wonder if we're going to see this Cataclysm come out now.
Wow, you want to go with a Cataclysm here? Interesting.
I really didn't want to let this cat flip whatsoever. It looks like he is just going to go for the more reliable option of setting up his own game plan through the vein. I think this is perfectly fine as well, but given that we had caster vision, I think Cataclysm to take out Katarina seems good to us. Of course, we also know that there is the second Katarina available there, and it's not going to come out super ahead. But we do have an update from Runeterra Pals versus Big Flex Gamers. Their series has been tied up at 2-2, so they're going into a final set as well. Very, very tight race for these last two semifinal slots. We'll see which of our teams come out ahead and find the victory. And look, here's the catch. Sending that Aegis directly onto the 2-1. Keeping it alive.
Catch here means that you can kind of deal 6 damage, or even if you do top deck like a defector, it becomes very, very awkward here. Allows that scout keyword from the defector, if top deck, to be very more important. Or you could just deal 7 a tiny bit more, and that's what we do. We top deck the defector. It almost like I knew what they were going to draw, and here it comes on the board now. Kevor got a few options. Honestly, there is a weird line of playing Katarina here to set up Infinite, and it's not actually horrible.
We don't have enough hollowed procs for that just yet, though. So
we don't, but we will be into the tag token on turn 5, and I don't think they have the opportunity to kind of, do well into it. But one thing we were talking about ages ago on this broadcast is Mark of the Isles is a good card, and one of these catches have been played. Therefore, if we play the Mark of the Isles here, be a bit cheeky, we can get this defector off, and Baya just thinking if this is what Kevor is going for.
Yeah. I think if you're Kevor, you do want to go for that option. We know that there are 3 catch, but we saw one used. We know one of these cards is a tumble. And I'm pretty sure that Bane was part of a full mulligan, so that's just any random card in the deck that he wouldn't want to keep. So the odds of drawing 2 catch are not super high. And it would likely be worth it to go for the trade if it was offered. But Baj not offering the trade, just going to go here for the full swing, takes a free trade with the Fleet Feather Tracker and represents 7 damage with his attack. Doesn't need the scout attack just yet. I like this a lot, actually. Correctly identifying that, hey, this scout attack could put me in some trouble. Very, very heads-up play.
Really smart, and yeah, we have to play this Mark of the Isles. If we did play that Katarina before and went for that line, it becomes a similar feat because you do the same thing of what Balia did there. And yeah, we just now play this Butcher, gives some protection against this tumble when we get the flock. Very, very important. It allows you to kind of go for that infinite line as well, because you really, really want to get, all these units out as best as possible. And if you have this flock on the back end, you can go for this infinite out here.
And this forces the Bane block, but of course we can see that there is a second one available. And with this tumble in hand already, we're just going to go for this attack. This is not super great from the side of Kevor. He can't be happy about his position here.
Yeah, Baya just using the tumble pretty well here, trying to get as much value here. And I think this is definitely what Kevor's going to do. He might try and sacrifice it. But talking about pressure, the defector comes out now on the side of Baya.
Yeah, these not 1 but 2 defectors. This is a really bad spot for Kevor.
It's not horrible though. We do have Vile, so there is some way to kind of stop some damage here if we want, right? And Kevor says, "This is what I want to do. I like it."
Vile our own Katarina though.
Okay.
There's no punish to it. We're getting 1 HP.
There isn't. And we're going to be blocking anyway. So Kevor realizes that. I really like this. Very smart. There's like weird stuff about Velo, but even then you're going to be trading right now. So I really do like this here.
Yeah.
And we will be getting the dancers out. This is really, really good for Kevor, especially having 2 dancers.
Weird spot, though, trying to decide if he wants to play the flock out this turn.
I actually really like this because he's thinking about the only way of losing, and I think it might be due to another catch, right? He's really going for this line.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
it's not horrible.
I like it, to be honest. I was thinking this originally, and I like leaving the spiderling back as well, so that way you're not at risk of dying to like catch cheese shenanigans, exactly like you said, Annie.
Yeah.
I think this is very heads up from Kevor, and he's of course going to make use of the free Blade's Edge. No reason to waste that. It is just free damage. Now, are we going to see the flock right here, or is he going to hold it? If you hold it,
you play it now, right? Because the only reason you do this is on the basis of actions. I guess not. I guess it's fine because it is their attack turn. Man, having all of these attack turns and the rallies just makes you forget whose attack token it is, and we're still fine here. Now looking at this, I might have actually not liked the flock last turn. I mean, setting up for it. I rather the trade and then playing the dancer so I can kind of, stop one potential attack and then flock the other unit. That's probably it, but I think Bayer might have a win here.
Yeah, if we play the dancers, this is actually over for the side of Kevor. We'll see if he's heads up enough to recognize that and goes for the Katarina instead, but kind of unlikely if you ask me.
So it's not...
Passes! That is such a Giga Chad play.
Yeah, he just passes. They don't actually have a catch in hand. Therefore, they can't actually go for lethal here. This is such an interesting game state because now Bayer can't actually condemn this turn. Goes for the Valor play anyway, and this will be game. Kevor has to play a unit out now because we are threatening lethal, and Bayer has a scout. This was such a close game. Kevor was playing for almost any potential out here with the infinite line of playing for basically infinitely winning, right? With the Katarina.
Mm-hmm.
So that was definitely a line. Otherwise, there was something like maybe the flock play was different. Like you could have maybe it seems like it wouldn't have mattered, but maybe if you just traded anyway and then kept up the flock for another potential trade with like a Katarina or something. It's very close, right?
I really like the way Kevor navigated that end game. I think the only misplay, and can we really call it that, when the Valor was sandbagged the entire game, and it's hard to make a read on a Valor like that, was not playing the Katarina there. If he played the Katarina there, he survives. But you can't possibly know that you need to do that, and you do need to be setting up to win on the following turn with the infinite attack combo, like you said. So I think it's great that Kevor played the way he did. I don't think it was wrong to take that chance there. It was just unfortunately not the right choice in that moment. But now we are going to see a mirror. And you mentioned, Annie, that Baj's deck is set up a little bit better for this.
It could potentially be, right? But it all comes down to what you draw. And you have to be kind of okay here. Wow. Did Kevor just keep that hand plus the glimpse?
He did.
Okay, I would have liked the one drop. The glimpse is interesting. I'm wondering why you would keep it. Maybe on the basis of playing a Glen and they have Sentry Flock, because that can win you the mirror, but you have to have tempo here, so I'm not sure. One thing is, though, we are going to get this attack in with the free one, being even now, back with our life total, and we have a Pigeon, which is nice to block here, and the Katarina will daily get rid of this Butler.
So the glimpse is to counter the opposing cat, right? That's what got to be why he kept it?
It has to be, yeah. But I don't know if you can afford that in the matchup if they drop it on free.
Yeah,
it seems like you just don't have the capability to do that because you're trying to fight for tempo. And I think the best line here is literally going Pigeon into Butler and then hopefully go open next turn, right? And then play your own Katarina and kill off their one. Which is like weird though, because you can't really afford them to actually flip the Katarina because it allows stuff like harrowing, it allows stuff like dances to gain a lot more value. And maybe Kiva will actually understand that and go for this glimpse because he doesn't want it to flip at all. Because if you try and kill it, it does gain an extensive amount of value to the point where harrowing and dances becomes a threat of their own.
And it looks like he is going to let it through. We'll see if he decides to go for the line of play his own Katarina and to remove opponents on the following turn, or if he takes this a little bit differently. Another pigeon found. Opens up the options a little bit, but not all that much.
I mean, we're talking about tempo in this game, and this is the best time you're going to find it here. Pigeon is actually almost the best card. If we had one more mana here of Blazes with 0, it would be perfect, but saying that if Baya had a 1-cost card, it would have been nice as well. And probably is another pigeon play here, but we don't want to play into Blade's Edge either.
Oh, Kevor, no, you can't do this. You're going to lose your cat.
Are we? I mean, we are, but...
She's just going to get pinged. Okay, he sees it. He sees it.
Somehow he heard the Canadian war cry, and it was like some weird like twin synergy going on, and he just knew about it. He knew what you were thinking, Monty. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And that's definitely what's happening here, and Kevin was just being more respectable about this. Don't want to play the pigeon in here because he really wants to go with this flop line. Needs to play risks and hope that they don't really have good outs with this flipped Katarina.
Brother? Okay. We saw it. Why did we go back to that? Yeah, he's just rearranging. It's okay.
He's just making sure.
Oh, he's just trying to... What he wants to do is he wants to buff the 2-2 up because it's the hardest one to block, right?
Right.
But you can't because of the support. So...
Yep. Yeah, and Baya here playing around this Mark of the Isles potentially. I think this is probably correct because if you're getting a weird Blade's Edge here, it means that they're probably going for flop, right? Especially if you play it on the stack now, and that might be the case. You wouldn't really care about the Katarina, especially with another one in hand, and the Blade's Edge comes out reciprocated from both sides, and Katarina is now flipped on Kevra with the basis of killing their one.
Both of these players in a pretty even position at this point. Of course, we are going to see this flop come out. Kevra has begun to set up. Baj somehow found himself up 1 mana, which may actually end up making a pretty significant difference in this game, but we'll see. Could be the difference between playing Harrowing on 7 and not. Turn 5, though, almost certainly has to be one of these Reckoners. Could also go for the Prodigy.
There's quite a few lines here, but just goes with the Reckoner. Interesting. Weird you don't Katarina. I guess it's on the basis of them Katarina, and you maybe want to have some defensive play. But this Reckoner is really good here.
Why did we not just play our Butler?
I think we want Reckoner. That's the main line they want to go for because they're just going to go...
Oh, we're just taking 8, I guess. Okay.
Taking 8, okay.
So my thought was play Butler, make the trade, don't take 8, and then play Pigeon and open attack Katarina. But
my idea was trade and then just play your 1-drops and then play Reckoner.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people must have an idea of what to do here.
Clearly got a plan. And I think it's going to work for him in this spot because, as we can see, Baj has no answers to this Katarina rally.
Yeah, I guess it is just due to the Katarina. Maybe this is actually the correct line. Hold on.
Kevor's winning here.
Yeah, because it goes to 8, right? You deal 6, he's at 5? What can really deal with this? You have the glimpse now to find Flock. And
Baj recognizing that he
yeah.
needs the glimpse, so he's going to go for it here. Could find Stun Spider. Sentry will do it. Could find...
Has to find something at least, because Kivor taking in 6 damage. I don't. Dancers won't do enough because you're going wide here. What does he draw? He finds
no answer.
Nothing. That is literally nothing. We are both kind of confused about that. And Kivor showing why he's kind of a good player.
Kivor the GOAT.
Some hope for the Mayo Bandits. Goes for his play to win line. And Katarina will be played here with the Blazing Edge, and that should be lethal with the Pigeon, right? Or the Butler. Unless I'm thinking something.
We're always winning here as Kevor. Because Baj did not find anything off of that glimpse, no Flock, no Vile Feast, nothing. There is just nothing Kevor can do here to lose the game except to take lethal damage, which is impossible if he plays out a unit.
Wait, okay, this is 6. Yeah, this is 6, right? So no matter what, this is lethal.
Yeah. And we're getting more hallowed procs, and we have the Blade's Edge, and we have more units.
And we have a unit. Yep, yeah, exactly. And this will be the game for Kevor. Honestly, this is why we shouldn't assume what they're doing and say it's wrong, because Kevor knows what to do. He played for the win, perfectly played, gets that 6 damage into, utilize this Katarina as well and make this Reckoner even bigger. And oh man, this is almost the most perfect way you could have played it, and really well done from Kevor here.
Yeah, perfect lethal. Actually won over if you count the Blade's Edge, but doesn't need it. Baj recognizes he's down, lets it go through, and we're getting a game 3. Now, Annie, I'm super pumped up. This is game 3, match 5. It's time for Silver Scrapes.
Yeah, but League Enjoyers, get ready. I play it with us, all right? Because we can't play it on stream because the copyright issue. So get on your YouTube or something. Play on Silver Scrapes one, aren't they? But yeah,
Riot actually released their own version that's not copyrighted.
Oh, true.
I think there's the one that they play. You can play. I think they've gone and uncopyrighted and done a remix so that way they could have rights to it. But I could be wrong. We'll see if production finds it for us. Maybe not. And we have the Seraphine deck coming up from the side of Kevor. We saw him pilot this to such great success earlier. We'll see if he can do it again. It's a very good opener for him, his side. Has a 1-drop to contest the rear guards. Has dropped the bomb to contest the rear guards. Has Pokey Stick for any Butler potentially. And, of course, has Tiny Spear to give himself fearsome blockers as well. So, got to be pretty happy with the way this is set up.
Yep. Kevor just passes here. Kind of getting a feel of the waters, seeing what he needs, which is fine. Tiny Shield you might want. Gets you out of certain ranges, especially because this deck doesn't really work in a way where you have single actions to kill things for Baya. So it makes sense, right? I really do like it, because if they try and go for any flock lines with Vile Feast, and it's let's say, 5 health, you actually survive there. So very nice. And talking about nice, this Pokey Stick will become pretty good for Kevor.
Kevor's got to be happy to find that in his opener, to have it available to him here. Saving 3 HP is pretty big. And dealing with this fearsome unit that's going to continue to be a threat against our deck without many fearsome blockers, if any, is very, very good.
Picking up the bar. This is very nice. This deck honestly just loves bar so much that it feels like a tier 1 deck to tier 2 deck if you find it to not find it, right?
Absolutely.
So, very nice here. And even though this looks somewhat aggressive on Baya's side, it's not really that fortunate for him, because we have dropped the bomb. We have stuff like Conchologist to be played, and we pick up the 2-drop here. Very nice with the group shot and having any other way to stabilize.
Yeah, unfortunately no weapons in this deck, so not going to be active, but still is one more ping for Ezreal, and just a way to set up other spells in the future. Can also be used as a discard target alongside these Bandle Telstones, or pretty much anything else it needs to be used for. Now I imagine we are going to see the drop of the bomb played out, and there it is. And this is looking really good for Kevor.
It's looking really good here. I think on paper, Red Glen is supposed to beat this deck, but Kevor has been absolutely dominating play majority of these sets, and you see why here. Gonna get the cord out, and even now a potential of the group shot if he wants, not the best, but it's definitely a line here if he wants to minimize any potential damage.
I almost like leaving the spider. Oh, wow. Actually takes all 5. Guess just wants to play the Ezreal out here, and I think that's pretty reasonable.
I don't hate it. You still get value later on, and look, I've been like thinking like maybe Kevor is like, you know, doing a wrong play at one time, right? And then it's not. He's actually just 6-hitting it because he thinks so ahead, and he obviously thought that the main priority I had to do was get out this Mystic Shot, slow down the game, and this is exactly what Bayer took that with a pass, and now we get a bar on the side of Kevlar here. Especially now with the cord and the group shot being available here, a nice +1/+2 here to stop any more damage through the overwhelm and be all right.
Actually, looking like he might just be taking this.
What?
I imagine we're stopping the 3 damage at the very least.
I hope so. Otherwise, I'm going to have a heart attack. We got to stop some damage, right, Kevin? Like, you've been doing all these nice plays, but please, surely, it's you know, have a healthy life total.
Getting a little bit low, and it is very it's starting to become quite spooky. I am very happy to see this come out. I would still like to see us block the 5-3, but I get that he doesn't want to give another camp block unit to the side of Bash attack.
Yeah, it's probably really well played, right? He's thinking about how is the Lamb going to lose? Probably Harrowing. Mm-hmm. What other ways am I going to lose? If I kill this Reckoner. So he's really trying to just utilize a point where this Reckoner just chumps some damage into my Nexus, but it's not going to gain more value because of these scary things like, you know, Harrowing or the other Reckoner, so I don't have a unit.
Sure. And one thing I didn't really consider is that he's actually kind of safe from this Overwhelm unit because he does have this PNC Telstones in hand. Always has the option to try and transform the Reckoner if it is going to present too much damage. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that will cleanse the stacks of Hallowed as well once it's transformed. I don't think those carry over on the transformation.
It should cleanse because it is a transform. And something really nice here is we didn't get to use the Mystic earlier, so this will be a 0 mana Mystic with Bar. This Bar is going to be absolutely insane because it also just makes this engine of Israel just hyper flip, right? And we really need this in the matchup, and we've been navigating this so well to the point where we know we can stop certain acts here, and I don't think we can pass this one up now. The Bar seems too good not to.
Yeah, Kevlar kind of needs to find his deny here, otherwise he's going to be in a really tough spot against this Harrowing next turn. Baj is in a position where he's just forced to rip it, and I think it's not necessarily huge yet, but it's got enough in it that it's something to do, and it's going to be a real threat for the side of Kevlar to deal with.
Right? But Kevlar's just thinking about it. Look, I've been saying this a lot. He doesn't think 1 turn ahead. He thinks like 3 turns ahead, and he's really trying to navigate this idea of if I'm putting this up, playing the Bar down, what will he potentially play? And, well, there is nothing on the side of Bayer. He's not getting any dancers. He's not getting any other potential Reckoners here, and this is looking really nice for Kevlar in this game state.
Okay, now we're going to see the setup for the removal. And I'm guessing we're just going to try and go wider now. We're going to see the second Prodigy come down. Now things are going to get a little bit scary for Kevlar because he definitely wasn't expecting to see that come out. Still, he's going to be able to play out this Disciple, and then he does have options to remove these if he wants. Between the High Note, the King off of the group shot, and the Electro Harpoon, he has choices.
I think he might not, though, because you really don't want this Harrowing to be a problem, and that is it. there is like weird lines here on Bayer to Flock, but that doesn't gain any value at all. And especially if you top deck, this Katarina, it gives you the availability to stop a potential win con on the side of Kiva, and it looked like that would have been the case. But this tiny shield that we were talking about ages ago actually will gain value here, even if the Israel isn't flipped. Right? I'm going a bit off script, or not focusing on the board because this is important. Kiva thought about this ages ago, and this tiny spear does gain value with the strength if they try and kill this Israel now. But we're getting rid of the tiny spear. Okay, we can maybe flip Israel this turn. That could potentially be the reason.
We have a second Israel that we just top decked one. So
right, okay.
Not super
I was getting
concerned
carried
about
away.
losing this. Also, it has can't block on it, which is like really good for Baj. So Baj might not want to remove this until later towards the end of the turn. I am a little bit surprised we didn't see a high note come out on top of one of these 2/2s. That extra attacker could be problematic here.
It could be on the basis of their hand was maybe more like a Reckoner, the 4/3 that kind of gives you that, attack. But I don't know if that can be the case because you're looking overly fine here.
Yeah.
You're just stopping this attack. You didn't want any potential to harrowing. This is why you didn't kill them before. And this Israel will be flipping soon. And then you also just have pressure on the side of Kiva now with this 2/4.
Even if they go to remove the Ezreal, we have this We Stand Together to buff it up out of Flock range. So Ezreal not at risk. Kevor not really at risk, but actually Kevor might not have a good way to end this game, except for the fact that he found a scout unit, and I completely forgot about that. Yeah, he can buff this scout unit up, and that alone is going to start to present a bit of a lethal threat here. Well, I imagine we're going to see the Ezreal just let go so we can replay the next one.
Yeah, it's a mega amount of pressure here. I mean, it's weird, right? I guess we're drawing, which is fine.
Fine, yeah.
We have to let it go as well because Bayer is probably going to figure out, he doesn't want to play this Reckoner because there's no point for it. So it will die on the basis of not being able to level it. And wow, talking about damage here, this will be at least 6 on the side of Kiva.
Bayer actually not wanting to develop any units because it's going to cause that Ezreal to flip, currently at 7 out of 8. Now that we've seen that come out, I wonder if we're going to see this We Stand Together played for a little bit extra damage. It does translate into 4 extra damage across the 2 attacks. Kevor decides to let that go. I imagine now we're going to see... Oh, I'm wrong. I'm right. That wasn't Ezreal. Okay.
There was a pretty interesting line there that you could have actually song spinned and just try and get buffs on your scout. But okay, so we know we're probably flipping Israel now, right? And
Ezreal is flipping with this group shot, right?
Yeah. Well, it's on 6, I'm pretty sure, right now, so we will need a song spinner. But we've got
7.
multiple... Oh, it's at 7. Okay, sweet. So yeah, it does flip here. This means that there is a potential 5 damage coming out. Bayer needs to block. We'll be blocking these units here and then goes to the Blade's Edge, the free one. You're dealing at least 5 damage. You're at 6 here. The song spinner now should just pump out stuff. Yep. We only need...
This is over. We Stand Together. We'll do it alone.
I mean, I'm thinking about potential Israel lines because it would be poetic taking it out with a Seraphine-like deck and having Israel as the win con, but Kevor takes it for the MAYO Bandits. They were 2-0. Absolutely getting steamrolled by Alwyn, and hey, look, Kevor did it again.
Absolutely unbelievable. Kevor, this is not the first time he's reverse swept. I'm sure it won't be the last time. The man is a beast. The French-Canadian chef absolutely cooking up these deck lists. Put the Seraphine fan club in the pot, boiled them up, spat them out, and served them for dinner to the rest of his team.
He just does this on such a casual basis. He's just like, yeah, make me do it. Like, this is why they had him in the AM versus EU money match, just because, like, hey there, I'm a good player. I will literally outplay you no matter how good you are. Sure, okay. I'll slow down a tiny bit because I'm getting too excited. Bayer didn't have the best draws.
No.
But at the same time, I think Kevo played that excellently, almost all the way through, and a person who could have that, mental state of playing beyond perfectly out of 3 hours in a tense situation like that.
And let's not forget the added mental pressure of playing against someone like Allen, like Baia, like Pavlici. Maybe to Kevor it doesn't mean anything at this point, but most people, when they see a name like this, there is some subconscious effect. Whether you recognize it or not, you start to navigate things a little bit differently. Maybe you give them a little bit more credit than you should. Maybe you give them a little bit less credit than you should. But your perception of these players changes the way you actually operate. So to be able to come out swinging as hard as he did after seeing his teammates go down 0-2, and then keep it up against Allen, clean 2-0 against Pavlici, and then only dropping one game where he still navigated his way out of what we thought was a losing position to find a way to win, and then just fumbled in that last step, which totally an acceptable fumble when you're in that spot. Like, how are you going to know to play the Katarina because you can't play the dancers because you're going to die to a Valor that's been sandbagged all game? You can't make that read. So phenomenal play by Kever all day, only dropping one game. Such great play that we are going to try and get him on for a winner's interview. But I think we're going to cut to a quick break. But before we cut to a quick break, I just want to remind everybody that we have teamed up with this lovely, lovely charity. They are... Oh, the name. To write love on her arms. Thank you, production. The name keeps escaping me. It's their name might be complicated, but their mission is not. They exist to help people find mental health resources and to help people gain access to these resources. I've gone through and perused their site, which you can also do by using !TWLOHA in the chat and read all about their mission statement. And if you would like to donate, you can do so by scanning the QR code directly below me. You will see that lovely blue bar go up, and we all love to see the bar go up. All right, stick around because we'll be back right after this short break with a winner's interview with our French-Canadian, Kevor. Until then.
See you soon.
Bonjour, mes amis. I'm Monty, joined by Annie and our French-Canadian winner, Team Titan of the MAYO Bandits. Kevor, how you doing? Congratulations, my friend. That was quite the impressive showing you had today. How did you feel going through that?
I think my deck felt pretty good. I think that the games mostly kind of played themselves, like a couple tight decisions that I'm happy about, but lineup is good. I think, last round, we were the exact same lineup, me and Baj. So, at that point, we just brought good decks that performed for me. I think my lines were okay. So, I'm happy. I'm happy enough for how we did.
We thought you played very, very well.
Yeah, there were lines where I'm like, okay, this is all right. I think it might be a losing line. And then you just kind of win. And I'm like, true. This is why, Kev was kind of good. And you just had so many play to win lines that weren't obvious and took it to another level where you could obviously consider that this was probably one of the best sets I've seen in a while.
Games were tight. To be fair, my teammates did not let the job easy for me, but I felt confident enough. Sure, I had to have some luck to the reverse sweep, but Yeah, games were good. Happy with the metagame so far. After the nerf, this game's still good. Like, to be honest, I haven't played much games since like the nerf, just because we're kind of like in a lull, right? Just after Worlds, we don't really have any reasons to play until like the next patch. But yeah, meta feels good. I'm curious to see like what else is doing well those days.
Yeah, sure. I mean, like stealing MAYO is never that easy, right? Especially if you're a bandit. So taking the time to try and plan it out and finally get the win there. I know your team must be stoked, right? Because them being on the back foot, there must have been a lot of pressure there for you, Kevin, to try and get that one.
Yeah, try to take the lines, the tightest lines possible, no margin of errors, Worked out.
So I actually want to talk to you a little bit about lineup construction. Obviously, Aegis has a unique rule set, and with the way the metagame has kind of shaken out, there's really only 3 good decks, which we talked a lot about on broadcast today.
Yeah.
How did you and the rest of the team go about dividing up those 3 good decks, and then how did you settle on the more out there lineups like Sonic's with the Caitlyn Jace Teemo and the Deep and the Ezreal Cannon?
Sure, I've done this format before, right? King of the Hill or Last Hero Standing or like whatever you may call it, like just where you're allowed to bring decks that are a bit more polarized in a way, like tier 2, even tier 3 decks like Deep and things like that. We just figured out that, not figured out, it's correct to bring lineups that are more polarized, in my opinion, in this format, right? Last Hero Standing. That's kind of what we did with Sonic. He played those decks before. We were trying, and the keyword is trying here, to target Kayn, Aatrox, Vayne. Aatrox, Vayne, Quinn. And that was supposed to be the line. Like, we were fairly confident that they would have 2 of that deck, and we can just start with Sonic, start with the easy win. Maybe they counter it. If Sonic wins, they're just like, the match is almost already over, and didn't pan out in the end. Like, it was maybe too risky. Maybe just the draws were not there. But the rest of the lineups, me and Ultraman, like, all credit to Ultraman, is the one that built and came up with the idea. First time, I just kind of showed up. But yeah, we just figured out now we can play a more powerful deck. I think having like at least one lineup that's very, very polarized in this format is correct. Even if it did not look so good today, I still think it's kind of what you need to do. It's what we did with when we played the money match, like NA versus CN and NA versus EU and things like that. So, and that kind of was the thought process behind it.
Yeah, no, I think it makes a lot of sense to bring something that's hyper polarized like that, especially if you do have the read that they're going to be on 2 of the same.
So don't play those decks on ladder. Like, those decks are bad. I don't want to see you guys go and play Deep on ladder. I don't want to face any of those crazy people. Well, in tournaments, it's better.
It just makes a lot of sense because of the nature of the pick order in this format, right? You can either send your more polarized lineup first, like you guys did, predicting that you're going to hit one of your 2 matchups.
Yeah, our biggest gamble was to make sure that the first guy would queue in the Aatrox, and they did. So we were happy with this. That could have turned out a bit even worse, but we just lost anyway the first 2 games. It didn't matter.
Well, if you want to guarantee an Aatrox, anti-Aatrox lineup, let me sell you on something, okay, Keeper? Triple elusives, all right? Triple elusives will...
Okay, what's the third elusive deck? Because, like, they all suck after the first 2.
No, you just run Champless Ionia, okay? With Purifying Flames. You will literally win against Aatrox, and I can guarantee you that. So, look, all you viewers out there, you cheeky, casual/competitive players, trust me, beat elusives, beat Aatrox, just bring triple elusives. I can guarantee you.
Just play Pyro Cannons, happy face, it's going to be okay.
Exactly.
I actually have one more question for Kevor before we send off. Kevor, last season and season 1 and season 0, you played in the Americas League. This season, you've been in the EMEA League. Have you found that there's a notable difference in the quality of players between Americas and EMEA? Have you noticed any other major differences between the leagues, like maybe deck selection? It's often talked about how vastly different the meta can be in both AM and EMEA. Have you noticed that at all?
Yeah, actually, like I was quite surprised. Like the meta is different. Like, so EU people and EU decks in general have like a way different opinions on certain decks. Like when Vayne Zed was like all the rage, people swapped to Vayne Quinn, but EU didn't do it. They stayed on Vayne Zed and things like that. So weird meta shift. So I was happy to have like a couple of Europeans on my team so I could talk this through. As far as like player goes, I feel like EMEA just in general, we have a bit less player in the pool. Between the players that are playing, at least right now, I feel like they're more like the seasoned veterans, the tournament players, just people that already have like big collections and things like that. Not necessarily that they're better than the best team in NA, but I think in NA you're going to have more people just try it out, just like a couple friends, make a team. I didn't find that EMEA players were that just like all names I recognize in all the teams and all the groups, which was not necessarily the case for NA. But like the metagame being different was quite interesting as my first time playing EMEA this time. So hopefully we'll see if we can cook things up for like the top 4 and the top 2.
Love to hear it. Love to hear it. So then, are you planning to compete in the AM and the EMEA League next season, or maybe just one or the other? And if you had the choice to compete in either, given that there was no restrictions, which one would you rather compete in?
Probably the Americas one, just because of the time frame. But this season, it was kind of last minute. I wasn't sure I was going to be playing. Kind of like all fell together, and also thanks to Inyamor for like kind of making the team. But yeah, so if I win this one, I'm gonna try and play both. I mean, at that point, like gotta defend the title. But
of course,
given the choice, probably just for time frame, because it's a bit harder on Saturdays, like right in the afternoon, for me at least.
Well, we also know who you'll be versing next week, Kevo. I don't know if you know, but it will be TA Washed Up Heroes. And they have some pretty good players. Teddy just 3-0'd, kind of does that on the basis. And I'm just wondering, how do you feel into that matchup against the Season 1 winners of Aegis EMEA?
They won Season 1? Nah, they can't go back-to-back. Won't allow that. Nah, no chance. We got it.
Kever out to prove that the Quebecois are truly the superior French.
All right.
Well, it's a German team, but yeah, sure.
Oh, is it a German? I lost it. I'm not paying attention.
I don't know when Germans speak French, but we do have a French LOR team.
I thought you said Lore FR, not washed up. My bad.
We're all washed up. It's okay.
We are. Okay, I'm all out of questions. Do you have any more questions for our Superman Kevor?
Nothing besides keep winning, Kevor. Let's get MAYO Bandits go to finals.
So next week, just I guess I have a quick question. This week is Christmas, right? We're taking a break, if I recall correctly, before the top 4. Gotcha.
I believe we are on break next week.
January 7th. Goddamn, will be a whole new metagame by then. It's going to be exciting.
Absolutely. Kevor, before we let you go, do you have any shout-outs you want to give?
Honestly, to Ultraman, because I think he was just... this week, I tried to be diligent and show up and do the games, but this week I was just very last minute and I did not have time, so I credit for the lineups and the decks to him. And just in general, yeah, my boy Jordan crushing worlds. Lost in the top 16, but we were very confident, and I was very happy to like cheer on my peeps in the worlds. So yeah, love you all.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, and congratulations again for your victory today. I look forward to seeing what you can do in the semifinals on the 7th of January. And that's going to be it from us here at Aegis today. Thank you to all of our lovely viewers. I know there's a lot going on today, so we appreciate you guys choosing our show to tune into. Once again, I'm Monte Cristo, joined by Annie and Kevor. And really quickly, before we let you go for one last time, I do want to shout out the lovely charity we've partnered up with again. Their name is To Write Love on Her Arms, and it's a nonprofit movement dedicated to presenting hope and finding help for people struggling with depression, anxiety, self-injury, and a wish to unalive themselves. They exist to encourage, inform, and inspire, and also invest directly into treatment and recovery. They're a very, very wonderful organization, and if you would like to donate, you can do so by scanning the QR code below.
Right there. Boom. Even though I'm pointing at Monty. Right, in that corner.
But that's going to be it from us tonight. Thank you all. We'll catch you next time.
Have a good one, people.